a viral tweet going around. In fact, there are several viral tweets to the tune of millions of views claiming that Tucker Carlson was placed on a kill list over his interview with Vladimir Putin. Man, there is a lot to break down here. It's kind of hard to title a show like this. We only get so many characters because it's half true and technically not true. He wasn't just placed on this list. He's been on this list for a long time. And it's not literally a kill list, but it is effectively a target list. Tucker Carlson has already been on it. Because of his interview with Vladimir Putin, naturally, people are very, very pissed off, and he's being accused, once again, of being a Russian asset or propagandist. But the real threat right now, aside from obvious death threats, and Tucker's probably got serious security issues because of this, but the EU has actually entertained sanctioning Tucker Carlson over his interview with Vladimir Putin. Several members of EU Parliament have expressed their intention to have him reviewed, as it were. It seems like a long shot, but it is very interesting. And it brings up a very interesting point, which I'm going to just say it bluntly. Why does anyone care that Tucker Carlson interviewed the president of a country we are not at war with? Because the answer is obvious. We are at war with Russia. And they are now outraged that an American journalist, Tucker Carlson, is interviewing the president of a country we are at war with. And that's it. I think it's plainly obvious, and it's been for a long time. Most of us who've been paying attention is that we are in this war. Chuck Schumer recently said we could lose this war, and that's why they're mad. They have unilaterally engaged in a war without congressional approval, without declaration, and they're trying to hide it from the American people. And we all knew, but I think the sentiment is there, and it's fairly obvious. So we'll talk about that. Plus a bunch of other stories which are very interesting. The border bill has been crushed. It's gone. Bernie Sanders says he won't support a bill with Israel. And now, of course, bro, you really got to stop.
Really?
Like, come on,
I'm
bro.
trying
It's
so far away from the
and
mic.
you're sipping into the microphone.
Oh, my bad.
Jeez.
Okay, tell me, Bernie. Sorry about that.
I've totally lost my train of
You're
thought
good.
as you're slurping three cans into the
No,
microphone.
I'm clicking them off the...
You're slurping into the microphone,
No,
bro.
I'm just talking.
I could totally hear
All
you.
right, sorry
I'm
about
like,
that.
man,
I
I can't even. I don't even know what I was talking about.
Bernie,
You broke my train of thought when I was trying to talk about Tucker Carlson. I'm like, you're cracking open cans.
Bernie said he wouldn't support a bill that
Before
funds
we get
Israel.
started, my friends, welcome to the show. Head over to castbrew.com and pick up your favorite coffee, the best coffee you'll ever have. We got Appalachian Nights back in stock over. We got Ground. We got coffee pods for your coffee pod machine. Appalachian Nights, everybody's favorites. And Rise with Roberto Jr. is also available. You got to support Cast Brew Coffee. We're opening up a coffee shop in Martinsburg, West Virginia. You're going to want to be there. That'll be sometime in the summer. But in the meantime, if you're a member of Timcast.com, by going to Timcast.com and clicking Join Us, in a couple weeks or so, we are going to be launching tickets for our live event March 5th, which is about a month from now, at our Martinsburg location. It is only open it's a private affair. You got to be a member. Tickets will be made available only to members. We may only just email out the link to buy tickets as well. But this is at our Casper location, so many of you will get to see the building. It is the second floor, so you won't see the first floor, but it's where all the construction is happening. And you'll also get access to the members-only Uncensored show, which will be up tonight at 10 p.m. And you get access to our Discord server where you can submit questions, call in, and talk to all of us and our guest. It's a lot of fun. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Natalie Winters.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
I know. I am the co-host of Steve Bannon's War Room, also an investigative reporter. And I guess since the last time I was on, I just launched an entirely USA-made lifestyle and clothing brand called She's So Right, but there also is a men's line. So it's been fun.
Right on.
She's adding entrepreneur to her resume.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. I'm really grateful to be a part of that team. Ian's here.
I'm the best Ian Crossan on earth. What's happening? Dude, Tim was not lying. I have 3 drinks.
He's cracking open
Freaking
all
delicious.
3. Reminds me of that scene from Family Guy where Stewie's in the attic with Anne Frank and he's eating chips really slowly. And they're like, what are you doing? And he's like,
And we were talking about Israel. It's all comes full circle. But they're delicious. It's 2 spindrifts and a kombucha. I'm going to mix them all together like the alchemist I am. Great to see you, Natalie. Tim, I love you. Hannah Claire, it's really good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
And Serge,
Been
what's
out of
happening,
town.
brother?
You're saying you were talking about Israel and then something about Spindrift. I don't know. Anyways, I'm Serge.com. Let's get into it, Tim.
here's the first story. This one, initially we wanted to talk about Tucker Carlson facing threats of EU sanctions because we have confirmed statements from these parliamentary members in the EU literally threatening Tucker Carlson over his interview with Vladimir Putin. But then I realized the gravity of some of these tweets. You've got this tweet from Juanita Broderick with 12,000 retweets, 31,000 likes, and 3.8 million views, followed by a quote tweet from Cat Turd with 1.7 million views and 15,000 retweets. Juanita Broderick says this POS dictator Zelensky has put Tucker Carlson on a kill list for interviewing Putin. Biden has helped him with your tax dollars. This is incorrect. Okay. Cat Turd says this should disqualify this corrupt POS from getting another dime from our country. Now, the challenge here is it's a massively viral story that is half wrong, half right. No Ukrainian government official, according to the fact check, has placed Tucker Carlson on this list. In fact, this website has had Tucker Carlson on the list going back to August. So he wasn't just placed on it, and it wasn't because of the interview with Vladimir Putin. Now, to be fair, Juanita Broderick did not say because, or actually, no, she literally did say for interviewing Putin. It appears that there is another entry placed because of following this interview with Putin. Now, it's not a kill list. It's a propaganda directory of some sort, a resource for pro-Ukraine individuals. And the reason why I say it's kind of half true is the fact checkers are trying to claim it's not a kill list. It's literally not, but it kind of is. You know what I mean? If you're a high profile individual and you appear on this list, they are basically saying to anybody who might have access to you, you are a bad person who is working against them. And of course, it has been reported that many people who do appear on the list have been killed. You know, and I don't know how many or what the ratio is, but I do certainly think it was important to start with this because it's gone a little bit crazy on social media. That being said, I want to highlight something that, I thought I had this pulled up, but now it's gone. Totally lost.
Come on, Ian, with your cans. And
It's taking a sip for that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. What happened to this story that we had pulled? It's just gone. It's literally gone. So you've got NBC News. Oh, perhaps it's right here. We got it. There we go. NBC News. Last March, Iowa police investigated a bomb threat targeting a junior high school. They determined that the threat was a hoax, but a detective from the police department had a theory about its possible inspiration, the Libs of TikTok account. Here's why I want to put these stories together. Okay. Tucker Carlson has been on a list since August. He has another entry added to the list. It appears, I could be wrong, it could be the same. It looks different. Following his interview with Vladimir Putin, he certainly is under a heightened security threat. He's probably getting death threats. These fact checkers on the community notes say it's not a kill list. It's not a kill list. The corporate press then claims Libs of TikTok, the same day, today, is inspiring bomb threats by targeting individuals. So it's funny how when it comes to the perceived enemies of the establishment, no. I should say, yeah, they're not being threatened. They're not on a kill list. But when it comes to someone reporting on and sharing information, which does create a threat to the establishment, they say you are inspiring death and kill lists. They call it stochastic terrorism. This is a tactic of the left where they accuse the right. When the right says, hey, I am critical of your thing, they call it stochastic terrorism. Then when Tucker Carlson is placed in the crosshairs, they say, no, it's totally fine. They're just saying, he's a propagandist. But the outrage is crazy. I don't know what you guys think of the corporate press so far and their entertaining posts about Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin.
It's complete hysterics, isn't it? It's kind of wild. It's these confusing articles that come out where they're saying Tucker Carlson says he's the only one who's tried to interview him, and you'll get a quote from an AP reporter being like, does he really think he's the only one who wants to talk to Putin? And at the same time, they're sort of condemning him for talking to Putin. You have to say, what do you guys want? Did you guys want to have the exclusive, or are you mad that he's doing this?
Well, how about this? Any country that we have given hundreds of billions of dollars to, I don't think we should be in a debate over the semantics of whether or not it's a kill list or it's some, government hit list. And it happens to be that Americans who have ended up on that list have been basically killed by the Ukrainian government. And I think people don't understand the lengths to which the regime has gone to cover up what is going on in Ukraine. And I think why you're seeing these crazy numbers, in some ways, I think it's sort of the Streisand effect, as cliche as that may sound. But look, they don't want Tucker Carlson to interview Putin. I would say look no further than the fact that it was less than a week after Russia invaded Ukraine back in February that the Pentagon, again, they never publicly announced it, but I believe it was the Intercept through FOIA, got documents showing that they reestablished the Influence and Perception Management Office, which they basically used to spread basically misinformation and disinformation. They say counter misinformation and disinformation, not just abroad, but domestically, here at home too. And that's why I think you see them in free fall, because they've had such a monopoly on trying particularly to control this narrative, not just because Ukraine works as part of their broader global agenda, but I think on a personnel and personal level, when you talk about, the Biden family's involvement there, I think Ukraine has just sort of been a cash cow for a lot of DC elites. So I think that's why you're seeing such a mad rush to really keep what's going on there under wraps.
So the website, my understanding, is not official, is not affiliated with the government officially, but has worked with law enforcement sources in Ukraine and foreign government sources for verification of information or whatever. So it's kind of just like
the fact checkers here.
Well, but I would say this is clearly a information warfare asset for them, listing all these people and showing all this propaganda and things like this. And the government uses contractors. It would be absurd to be like, oh no, they're not CIA. They're just a contractor for the CIA. They're a totally private entity. They're not associated with the government. The president's not involved. They just sometimes coordinate. You know what I mean?
And we pay their bills on occasion.
But have there been American citizens who are on this list and killed?
I believe there were, or I don't know if it was necessarily this list, but I think the whole Gonzalo Lira case, I'm pretty sure he was.
I'd have to imagine he's been on their list, and then they hunted him down, and now he's reportedly dead. But
my point is, we shouldn't even be in a space where there's gray area about whether or not it's like a kill. Regardless, or if Americans are dead or alive, like for a country that we have given so much money to.
But it's not a government website, so it's.
But I think it more or less. I think that's like saying the fact-checking organizations here in the United States that have been set up as sort of outfits of federally funded institutions, or they're receiving federal funds. It's like, well, I guess they're technically not, but I think that's precisely the point. They like to be able to play that kind of shell game.
Right.
Say, oh, well, it's technically not the government, but by all intents and purposes, it is.
It is acting in the interest of the government and probably has some kind of, intermediary.
That's fascism. It's fascism, man. It's why it's so hard to combat, because you can't really see it a lot of times, especially in the age of corporatism.
I just love how they're like, it's not a kill list.
This is
okay. Just some people on it have been killed. There is a difference, but there is a difference. That's true. But it's kind of like, they're putting crosshairs over Tucker
I think we
Carlson.
should be this specific if we're going to go line by line on whether it's a kill list or like a target list. How about we audit all the billions that we have sent to Ukraine with that same level of a fine-tooth comb? But these people don't actually care about semantics.
They don't know where that money went.
Exactly. They're never going to audit it. Yeah.
No, for real. Like, wasn't it reported like half the money?
No, they actually do not know where
it's
it
gone.
is.
It's just gone. Oh,
and the best part too, speaking of how the mainstream media has continuously run cover on this narrative, I believe it was back in October of last year. It was not leaked, but they were talking with Politico from the Biden White House, saying that the new narrative that they wanted on the Ukraine war was that our aid packages over there were actually a boon to the United States economy. It was great for the manufacturing base. It was great for jobs, just the most bogus BS narrative you've ever heard. But a month, 2 months later, you can look back at some of the stories. All these media outlets started running with this narrative, basically saying, oh, Ukraine contracts. Oh, it's great for, it's great for the defense contractors. Yeah, I guess it's great for the Beltway. But this was even down to like local newspapers and like affiliate stations pumping this very fake narrative that was disseminating directly from the White House. If you traced it from what they were saying in Politico all the way to these newspapers. So they've obviously have been working overtime to really create this. And I think too, it's really interesting. There's this entity in DC called the U.S. Ukraine Business Council. It's sort of like a lobbying group. But again, they play a little bit of semantics where they say we're not registered foreign lobbyists, but they're hosting meetings all the time with defense contractors. But they have sitting members of Congress, including Democratic Representative Marcy Kaptur, listed as one of their strategic advisors. So there really is this, I think, maybe like Chinese door is, that's the wrong country, sort of a good way to put it. But when you're dealing with Ukraine, I think especially now that they're at war, it's like there really is no meaningful difference, I think, between what the country is doing when they're sort of tangentially related to the government and it not being a direct asset of the government. But frankly, even I'm sure you guys remember how FTX was partnered, I believe it was with the Ministry of Digital Transformation in Ukraine, that story. Like, even if you want to go down the route of going down specific Ukrainian government entities that have been caught up in corruption, there are I would say dozens of those avenues that you could pursue too, but the media is never going to do that. So they're just going to play word semantics with like kill list versus not try to kind of straw man or I guess maybe steel man the argument.
Because they're still trying to rebrand Ukraine as a sympathetic country.
Of course.
That is justified in getting billions of American dollars.
And a sympathetic country like Ukraine would not be capable of having a kill list because they're democracy, right? If Ukraine loses, like they are the bastion of democracy.
It is kind of funny that Ukraine is literally the opposite of democracy.
Yeah.
They'll just kill you if you're in the way. They're suspending the elections.
Yeah.
Hey, when the Washington Post said democracy dies in darkness, it wasn't a warning. They were telling you their playbook. That's what they want to do.
Well, here's the other big news. We have this from Scanner, SCNR.com. EU considers sanctioning Tucker Carlson over interview with Vladimir Putin. Officials say any sanctions would likely require proof that Carlson is linked directly to Moscow's aggression, which is a meaningless statement because they will just come out and be like, Tucker Carlson ran cover for Vladimir Putin. Lawmakers in the EU are weighing sanctioning news media heavyweight Tucker Carlson as a result of his forthcoming interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed Tucker had met and talked with Putin, as did the former Fox News anchor himself in a post to social media platform X explaining why he sat down with the head of Russia. EU officials are considering imposing a travel ban on Carlson, who they say is acting as a mouthpiece for Putin. Quote, as Putin is a war criminal and the EU sanctions all who assist him in that effort, it seems logical that the External Action Service examine his case as well. There's an important takeaway from this. I mentioned it in the introduction to the show. Why would anyone, political, celebrity, personality, journalist, why would anyone care that Tucker Carlson interviewed the president of a country we're not at war with? Are they going to cry and complain Xi Jinping came to California or came to the United States? No, they don't care. Oh, it's because the reality is we are at war with Russia. And what's going on in Ukraine is just the U.S. using them as a proxy to go to war with Russia. We all know it. Everyone in Europe knows it. Chuck Schumer said we could lose this war. And so there it is right in front of your face. The fascinating thing is, at least when we invaded Iraq, we knew that we were going to war. They said it. Since then, I think the deep state, the establishment has just figured out, don't say you're going to war. Just do it. Just go. Here we are.
It's wild. I mean, I think with sort of like we were talking about before, the rebranding of Ukraine, there has also been a long time narrative that Russia is the biggest enemy we have. And I think you're right to bring up China and especially everything, all of the comments about the Uyghur Muslims and everything else that has gone on there. We definitely treat these two world powers very differently. I think, you know, it's obviously, in my opinion, brave and admirable that Tucker's going to interview someone who is controversial. I think the fact that so many European countries have said we're going to try and shut Russia's access to the Western world down, both economically and socially, is disturbing. I think they are ultimately feeding a lot of propaganda to their own people. And if we're not at war, then what could Putin say?
Yeah,
you know, if he's such a horrible person, what is he going to say that you think you can't refute in your own media?
If the Russians were the aggressors and we wanted this war to end, then diplomacy would be good. You could go talk to him. Maybe he would stop fighting. But that they seem to not want diplomacy, which indicates that maybe we're the aggressors here. And it's kind of like if I come up to you and I'm like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you, but I'm an inch away from your face. I'm aggressing on you. Even though if you swat my hand away, I was the one that was aggressing on you.
See, I think they don't want transparency. I think, you know, there were all these stories for a while. Vladimir Putin is super sick and he's going to die at any second and that will cause chaos. And Russia is going into an election year. If someone were to, you know, speak to Putin and say, are you sick? You know, maybe he'd lie, but at least you would have a Western outlet asking a question instead of it coming telephone through Europe. I think the ultimate goal is to make it so Russia is too far out of touch for anyone to communicate with. And so you have to rely on agencies like the UN or other European, you know, large scale government entities to say, this is what Russia's doing. Believe us. Don't question it at all.
And by the way, if all of these news outlets really hate state-run media so much, I believe I'm not mistaken, it's the New York Times, I think CNN too, the Washington Post, they take money from China Daily to run advertisements in their papers. These have all organizations and these journalists have all partnered with Chinese state-run media outlets. I'm pretty sure Tucker said that they've reached out to Zelensky to try to interview him, but they haven't heard anything back. But you're so right. This narrative that they're opposed to peace talks, and that you've seen, at least in whether it's The Atlantic, CNN, you see op-eds all the time. And it's so interesting. One of the stories that we were working on at War Room, a lot of the refrain, that like anti-peace talk narrative, even there was an op-ed, the title was like, peace talks are, quote, counterproductive, which is just kind of an asinine take in my opinion. But a lot of those people, the authors behind it, are luminaries. I always say they're like the impeachment witnesses of Trump's first impeachment, like the Brookings think tank types who, the elites that we should trust. But they are all fellows and advisors at that U.S.-Ukraine Business Council, but they never disclose those conflicts of interest in those op-eds. So part of it, I think, is the ideological compromise. They really do believe that Ukraine is like, if we don't win, Russia bad. But there also is a very clear financial interest there. And I just think it's interesting that they never disclose that.
Well, we have one of the greatest tweets ever in the history of Twitter, and it is here. Glenn Greenwald tweeted, "Who were the American journalists who conducted even minimally adversarial interviews with Zelensky?" To which Elon Musk responded, "To be fair, it's hard for them to talk while giving a blowjob at the same time." And that may be one of the greatest tweets ever made. And I just screenshotted it, and I had to post it on X. But as much as all of us are laughing, and I'm sure some of you may be putting earmuffs on your kids and hoping you don't have to explain to them what that meant. We do have this from End Wokeness, a very pressing and important interview from CNN with Zelensky of Ukraine. I'd like to play for you now this very, very important interview.
As a human being, so many people look up to you. They rely on you. No one can imagine how hard that is. Do you do anything for yourself? Are you ever able to take a minute to read or to listen to music or something to sort of give yourself a moment?
I have such moments, important to be in silence, to be alone. And early in the morning, when there are no sounds, no people, nobody. I mean, the people, our staff. I mean, no.
Okay, well, clearly, I think they added the music to that one, but it is still funny.
Wow, I was like, the music. If the music is really on that's amazing.
Did they mess with the editing to like get the close-ups of her face looking sad? Because that is cringy.
Well, I think that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, all that's an edit.
Okay.
The questions from Aaron Burnett, that is really what she's asking. It is the least adversarial thing we have ever seen, and that is what they expect
Started
of
off
you.
as a human being. That's what you call humanizing someone. So they're humanizing Zelensky. That's a tactic.
That's right.
And you
And everyone looks up to him, so it's a very fair and even interview. I mean, I don't think I've ever looked up to Zelensky. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure who she's referencing.
I think
here.
you probably looked down.
Oh, wait.
I read too.
Here we go. Zelensky reveals his favorite band.
Who
Look
is
at
it?
that.
Three Dog Night.
Ukrainian. Well, I'll just play it. I'm pretty.
Yo, if he likes Three Dog Night, I'm giving him a chance.
We got an ad. A birth control ad.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, CNN.
Thanks,
Unless I'm wrong.
You got to pay.
Something
Hey,
else.
you got to pay your dues if you want to watch CNN. Okay.
If you pay extra and you're
Look
one
how
of the
happy
rich
she
ones,
is.
they won't force feed this
not.
birth control commercials down your throat.
What is that?
I don't know what it was. It might not be birth control.
It was Pfizer.
People look up to you. They rely on you. No one can imagine how hard that is. Do you do anything for yourself? Are you ever able to take a minute to read or to listen
gonna
to
cry?
music or something to
She
sort
looks
of
like
give
she's going.
yourself
It's
that,
horrible.
a moment?
I have such moments, important to be in silence, to be alone. How can I be alone? Alone, I can be with music, it's true, or with a book. And early in the morning, when there are no sounds in
No air raid sirens.
no people, nobody. I mean, the people, our staff. I mean,
Blah blah blah. I don't
nobody
care to
is
hear this.
busy.
Who's his favorite band? What is it? It says classic rock. Does he name
They
anything?
want to make you watch this video.
I hope Tucker asked Vladimir Putin the same exact question verbatim.
He's like, the Bee Gees. That'd be the best.
No, right. Who's going to name a Russian
Taylor
band?
Swift.
This guy's going to name an American band or like a
Yes.
European band. They're different people completely.
It's such a psyop, even down to like what he's wearing, right? He always has to be ready for battle.
He never takes off this uniform, even though when he's traveling, he's nowhere near any battlefield. Like,
I don't think he's ever anywhere near the battlefield.
That's true.
I think
Yeah.
this guy is a TV character.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, he literally was. He played the president on TV. But I think I don't think this guy's ever seen anything close to conflict. They probably have him in a secure location because he's basically you guys have seen Hunger Games, right?
Yeah.
In the second one, when they get Katniss out, of the games, they're like, keep her in the basement and have her make videos. They don't want her going to war because if she dies, she's their propaganda tool. She's a rallying cry. That's what they're trying to do with this guy. I got to be honest. He's the least inspiring guy they could have gotten. I mean, seriously? Couldn't they have gotten some like Dolph Lundgren like type Ukrainian dude who's like filming propo videos on the
like
front
hot
line?
Ukrainian chick.
Is that? I was gonna say, which one was Hayden?
Well, they tried that
Panettiere?
with a trans woman, and that was
yeah.
but it was to pander to the liberals and the left in the United States so they could ask for money.
Yeah.
I was say, who was Hayden Panettiere married to? She was married to a Ukrainian guy who was like, I'm going to the fields or whatever else. Like,
But
much better than Zelensky.
They need like a 6'5" ripped dude who's standing there, holding a weapon, being like, "As the president, I will
Look at
make
this.
sure." And then they film fake videos where he's on the front line leading the troops. This is just some guy who's in a park all the time and he's like not doing anything.
Well, he walks around places that seem staged and well lit, looking sort of sad and pensive. And so, really, in that sense, he's doing exactly what they need him to.
Remember that video that came out where the background was completely still and the trees weren't moving in the wind, and they were like, people were like, "Yo, this looks like a green screen," and they were, "No, it's not. It's not a green screen. What are you talking about?"
You don't understand Ukraine. In our culture, our trees don't move in the wind.
The wind
There
is
no
different.
wind.
Yeah.
Russia has stolen our wind.
The trees can't blow because they're mad at Russia. That's the state of the world.
They're still in protest for the things that we're suffering. Like, it just becomes so ridiculous. And I think you're right. The amount of money that we're spending on Ukraine, considering this is what they're doing, which is just to sort of he has gone on so many international trips being like, please, money. He's like a professional fundraiser for his country. And it seems crazy that when Tucker Carlson is like, well, I want to talk to the other side, everyone's like, how could you do this? Possible sanctions, like, hysterics.
I just had an idea for something I would love to make if we had the means. And it's like, you take that scene and then halfway through, you just zoom in on Zelensky and Aaron Burnett and you play like slowly increasing romantic music with no dialogue. And they're just looking at each other and then it escalates.
There was some romantic undertones.
Right. But then you have the Dolph Lundgren style guy, and we'll film a different scene where he comes in and goes, "Zelensky, get away from her. She's mine."
Or it's
You
Putin.
it's Putin. He comes in, he's like, "You cannot have her. She is mine." And then it just soap opera style,
Didn't
and
Justin-
then Aaron Burnett is like, "Putin, you can't be here. You died in that safari when your brother contracted malaria and then gave it to you." "No, I survived with this." And then he holds up like a golden the Holy Grail.
Didn't Justin Trudeau try to make fun of Putin? He was at some international gathering of whoever cares, and there were these photos of like Putin shirtless on horseback that had come out. A little, whatever, man, like a little tryhard, but okay. And Justin Trudeau tried to make fun of him for them. He's like, maybe we should all take it. It was just like the most ridiculous, obvious jealousy. I just find the hysterics around this whole thing deeply confusing. And I think ultimately trying to make Putin the bad guy is the only way they can try to keep the narrative going of this is something Americans should pay attention
Well,
to.
it's because we're at war.
I'm
Like,
confused.
if Tucker Carlson interviewed, like, I don't know, the president of, Tajikistan or something, or what, I don't even do that. I don't even know if they have a president. Nobody would care. They'd be like, whatever. But Tucker Carlson interviewed Vladimir Putin, and we're at war with Russia. So naturally, they're freaking out.
I want to know why. I still want to know why we're still at war. So was it to diminish Russia's power, or is it to take control of the region? Is it both? I mean, it would be a both thing.
Well, it's both.
Like,
Yeah,
is
literally.
it really like to full military global dominance right now? Because they're trying to do this new world order thing where they have all of us kind of technocratically bow to our overlord. But like, why don't they just get the U.S. and Russia to go along with it? I don't understand why they're making them fight.
It could be that Russia, it's all fake conflict. I don't know.
I also just think it's such a double standard. I know I make everything about China. That's the war room rubbing off on me. But, it is really hypocritical. What was it, just 1 or 2 months ago that, you have Xi Jinping, right, coming to San Francisco, getting the red carpet rolled out for him. And I think you make the point precisely. It's like we're basically at war, right? Russia, Ukraine. That's why it's not okay for Tucker to interview Putin. So then China's obviously at war with us. Yeah, it's not necessarily kinetic. It's more of the unrestricted warfare type, certainly information warfare. So then why is it okay to have Xi Jinping on American soil and roll out the red carpet for him and have media outlets interview him and have them take cash from Chinese Communist Party? It's such a double standard, and it goes back to the original premise, which is that it's all about narrative control and suppression.
Well, perhaps what will happen come November is Donald Trump wins. But in the meantime, let's jump to this very hilarious story from NBC News. Nikki Haley loses to none of these candidates in the Nevada GOP primary. That's right. Nikki Haley was running in the primary. She took it very, very seriously. She did. Wait till you see the clip we're going to play from an interview. And she lost to none. That's right. She lost to no one. Quite literally, like no one beat her. No. Like, quote, no one, end quote, beat her. Like when people were given the choice between Nikki Haley and someone else, anybody, please, not her. Somebody, anybody, please, not her. Won. Mm-hmm. And so it's been an excellent day of memes. Andrew Klavan said, don't make fun of her for losing to none of these candidates. None of these candidates ran a great campaign, and none of these candidates is qualified to be the president of the United States. Very clever. But where's that? Here we go. Let me play this clip for you so you can hear it for yourself what she had to say.
Does that situation in Nevada hurt a little bit?
No, I mean, Nevada, it's such a scam. They were supposed to have a primary. Trump rigged it so that the GOP chairman, who's been indicted, would go and create a caucus. We knew months ago that we weren't going to spend a day or a dollar in Nevada because it wasn't worth it. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't even count Nevada. That wasn't anything we were looking at. We knew that was rigged.
Oh, it was rigged.
From the start?
It was rigged from the start. Trump rigged it. She's an election denier. I just love this so much because she's like, it's quite like we should stop saying sour grapes and start saying Nikki losing in Nevada because she's just like, I didn't want to win the primary anyway. Like, who cares? It was rigged. It was so dumb. Like, we didn't want it.
It is actually dumb because she took it seriously enough to register to be on the ballot, despite the fact that the RNC is awarding based off the caucus, which is tomorrow. Like, she is now saying, I know I'm going to lose in the caucus in Nevada. So she's getting out ahead of the message of like, well, not only did you lose to literally no one, you also lost to Trump. She's saying it never mattered, which how could you like her if you're a Nevada voter?
But you know that if she did get first place and none of these candidates didn't make a mark, she'd be saying, look, that's Trump's fault. I won the primary. Those delegates are mine, blah, blah, blah. Instead, you lose.
Yeah.
Is it
and
zero?
He rigged it. He rigged it.
Yeah, he rigged it. He rigged it. She's banging.
She said it twice, I think.
She did. She did. She probably says it more. I only stopped the video 26 seconds in.
Is Nevada 0 delegates? Is that what I was reading?
No. It's 0?
I thought it said it had 0 delegates.
For the primary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the caucus, they're doing a caucus to award. I think, what is it? What is that? It's because they want to remove his name from the ballot or something, or what? That's why they moved to a caucus?
Yeah, I mean, so Nevada's weird because they tried really hard to say, like in 2021, they passed this law saying we are actually the state that gets to hold the First in the Nation caucus or First in the Nation primary. And they had been, from what I understand, a caucus system beforehand. And this is all leading into the time where the Democratic National Party spent a lot of time saying, actually, we want to rework the entire schedule. We don't want Iowa and New Hampshire to go first. We don't think it represents the voter base, basically saying they're not diverse enough states. And so they want to lead with South Carolina and Nevada and go into a different schedule. And so you're seeing this year Republicans having races in some states, and sometimes they're held at the same time as Democrats, and other times they're not. So like the South Carolina primary for the Democrats was February 3rd, but the South Carolina primary for the Republicans is, I think it's February 26th, right at the end of the month. So because their parties are operating differently, just like, so the Republicans saying, well, even though you have now passed a state law saying you have to have a primary, we are still having the caucus and that's what we're awarding, is very similar to what the Democrats did in New Hampshire, which is to say, even though it's state law there, you have to have the First in the Nation primary. They discouraged the Democratic, New Hampshire Democrats from holding one, and they said, if you do, we won't award any delegates based on that. So you're just seeing this bifurcation of we want to control the order in which states vote.
I just pulled it up. The issue is that they passed a law in 2021 to get rid of the caucuses. The Republicans said that's ridiculous. Primaries are not secure. And they said no. And they said, well, we're only counting the caucuses anyway.
Yeah.
So the RNC is taking authority over the states, basically.
Well, the state can do whatever, they can say whatever they want, but the party's private.
Yeah, both parties are doing this. Like, if you look at New Hampshire, the DNC was like, we're not counting your primary votes because you are not obeying our order. And the Republicans said to Nevada, we don't care that you want to hold a primary. We want a caucus here. That's what we've always done. Yeah. And so it's weird. It's unusual. On the other hand, I think it just shows how much people don't trust the voter system. I mean, what the Democrats are selling right now is that if we follow the old order, we're basically following racism. They have said, and Joe Biden has endorsed this, that we have to change the order of the states. They're really drifting far apart.
I have a real question. There's a real one. what would possess Nikki Haley into, figuratively, standing in public and begging people to throw spoiled, rotten garbage at her? I mean, like, this is one of the most humiliating things a person could personally ask for. So apparently she's not going to be in the caucus. Her name's not in the caucus. She's only in the primary. And she lost to none of these candidates. I wonder if she actually thought she was going to win. She was like, with Trump not on the ballot, I get first place. And then she doesn't, and she gets beat by literally any, like, just not her.
Does it mean that they wrote his name in? That's basically...
No. One of the options was none of these candidates.
You could vote for
Quote,
none of these candidates,
yes.
literally?
And none beat Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
By
think
like
she thought
double,
she was-
too.
I feel like
Like
this,
double it was double.
I feel like this spin, I mean, it just reeks of insincerity and probably, focus group sessions of all of her big corporate and Democrat donors. But they're like, what is the Trump base really like? Talk about, rigged elections. So that's what we're going to say. We're going to try to like pull the Trump card and be like, oh, it was rigged. Oh, we didn't even like it's sort of, there's something sort of like Trump-esque about, right, the way that she's approaching
Like, go
it.
on the offense. You have to attack.
Exactly. But it,
instead
like,
of-
it doesn't work because no one actually likes you and you actually lost.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
she's an election denier now.
She
There
is.
you go.
Yeah.
She should
She'd
join the club, I
retire
guess.
in shame at
Election
this point.
denier.
But
gotta drop
Governor
out.
Joe Lombardo was one of the first people, at least I saw, I'm sure other people had said it, who has said, I am going to partake in the primary because that's what's happening in our state, but I'm going to vote for none of these candidates because I don't want anyone here. He's always been a really big supporter of Trump. And so I just think Nikki Haley was hoping that I think she underestimated the support that Trump has on the populist level, especially among state governors. I mean, not even the governor of her own state, South Carolina, which is basically the next thing that she's leading up to, saying, I hope I can win South Carolina. None of the Republicans in South Carolina.
The entire administration of government, like all the Republicans just endorsed Trump.
Everybody.
But I don't even think the variable here is like Nikki Haley and what she thinks is politically wise for her to do. It's the donors who are propping her up. She's more or less, to quote someone, a listless vessel. And I think that's right. I think that it's not about actually analyzing like boots on the ground voters. It doesn't matter because she knows she's not going to win deep down to her
But
core.
you think she'd have enough self-esteem to be like, I don't want to be the puppet in front of all of this and be humiliated like this. Like, she's saying stuff now that she's never going to be able to take back.
Yeah. Maybe,
and
but-
it just shows how unpopular she is. I mean, where does she go in terms of her political career after being wrecked over and over again?
Oh,
with
but no,
polls?
but-
She'll run in 26 or
this
28
defeat-
or whatever.
I just like, I just the most embarrassing thing
I think
a
people-
person could
You sort of understand her foreign policy. How's
I-
she okay with losing all this?
I'm sorry, like the humiliation, the utter humiliation that she's experiencing, and you can see it in her face. She's like, no, it doesn't matter. We didn't even care. Like, we didn't even want to be in Nevada. Trump rigged it. He rigged it. I didn't even. Wait, hold on.
I cared enough to register, but I don't actually care at all.
Whoa. Which is it? Did you always know you were never going to spend any money in Nevada? Or are you upset that Trump rigged it and you actually wanted to win and you got your name on the ballot? I think she thought she was going to get it.
For sure.
And then instead, she just got it like, she was just standing right between the sewage pipe and
My
right in
thoughts-
public in front of everybody. And she's standing there going, I didn't even want to stand here in the first place. You're all dumb. I didn't want to spend money. It's like, dude,
It's not that
sour grapes.
Like, to say that people have short memories is kind of vague generalization. It's not always true. Some people have great memories, but a lot of people reading the past history and watching the patterns, they don't. They forget. Like, Joe Biden resigned from his run for president in 1988 because he was plagiarizing. Humiliation. No, you should never have a guy like that in office, but people, for whatever reason, forgot. I was never told. I had to find out through, circuitous means eventually in 2009 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's going to be groomed to run as somebody's VP in 28 or 32. They're going to keep her around. And now this is good. All publicity is good publicity crap.
It's not. It's all good. All publicity is not good publicity.
Not with the internet. It's a little different. With internet video, it's different.
Like this is bad for her brand. It turns her into a clown. Like, holy crap. I gotta say, man, the PR people will be like, there's no such thing as bad press. I'm like, I kind of think there is. Like, you losing to none basically makes you the least viable candidate ever. This point, moving on. Like, you can't run for anything. You can't run for class president at this point. You can't run for the head of the PTA.
What federal position is available to her right now? Because she's not going to get a position in the Trump administration. That's just the way it is. And, she's not super welcome in her home state. You'll hear interviews with South Carolina voters who say, she was a great governor. I just don't see her as president, whatever else. But now it seems like the voters who have elected the current guard of leaders in South Carolina wouldn't support her either. I mean, they have drifted more favorably towards Trump. The longer she stays in this battle with Trump, the more she isolates herself from most Republican voters.
But I think she's more concerned about what the defense contracting industry thinks of her and what cushy gigs and retainer fees she'll be able to get. I don't think she gives I won't cuss, but anything about the Republican base, or she wouldn't have, first of all, stepped in. She would have stepped out a while ago. And I think it's just sort of performative activism, I would say, to get a cushy gig at whether it's Raytheon, Boeing, choose your corporate, sugar daddy.
But she already had those. I mean, she could have stayed. She is choosing to go back into politics because she craves the power, is my assumption.
I feel like she's being pushed. Like she's sitting in the driver's seat of a self-driving car.
Well, Ken Griffin gave her what? He gave her a super PAC like $5 million. But then he was interviewed and he was like, yeah, I don't think she's going to win. So,
But it's not, I think why it comes off so disingenuous is that they're not giving money to her because they actually liked her. Ron DeSantis was sort of the first pick, but then he was the sacrificial lamb. It didn't work out. Then maybe it was going to be Glenn Youngkin. Now it's Nikki Haley. So I think there's that lack of authenticity because they don't actually believe in her. It's just the way things have sort of happened, the way the tables have turned, the cards have played. It's like she's the last one standing, and yeah, maybe she's a woman, so it makes them feel better. But I don't really think there's, like I said, she's a listless vessel for these corporate donors who oftentimes are majority Democrat, but she's just sort of a walking shell of their interests. You think those people care about the MAGA base, the Republican base? They're probably laughing, oh, these dumb idiots are going to think if we say the word rigged, let's focus group that word. Like that's going to go over with them because they're really into election denialism, but it shows you how to touch they are.
I will give her credit. She learned how to talk while opening and closing her mouth. It was funny because I tweeted like, Nikki Haley, when she speaks, she doesn't move her teeth. And then it was kind of wild because there were people like, they got to be PR accounts, something, defending her saying, your teeth don't move when you talk. And I was like, dude, your mouth opens and closes and your teeth are going up and down. But when she talks, she keeps her jaw still and she talks through her lips like this. It's like she's yelling at her dog. You know what I mean? Like, you're mad at your dog.
That's the adjective.
Terse.
Yeah,
is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
When you
terse.
like, how dare you? I will lock my teeth together. You got the garbage again.
That's her energy style.
Terse.
Yeah,
but in this, I noticed
she looks terse. I don't know.
She
if
like
actually
figured out how to speak with opening and closing her mouth.
She laughed nervously in the beginning of the interview. You can tell she's a
Nikki.
mess right now. What is Nikki?
There you go.
You got to drop out, Nikki.
Sorry, Nimrata.
So these people that are funding her campaign, are they basically ready to profit off of global organization, like global finance, if the U.S. amalgamizes into this new world order thing peacefully?
Like just try and understand it. Ian, I think you're too self-centered. I think you got to understand it from their perspective. If someone came to you and said, blowing up a bunch of kids would put $1 million in your pocket, you'd say yes, right?
I don't think so.
I'd
like to hear more about the plan before I say no, but no,
try
I
and
don't
hear
think
it from
so.
her donor's perspective. You know what I mean? Like, you blow up a bunch of kids over there, you get money over here.
Okay.
Right. That's the argument.
Okay. I'll play along. I'll Smedley Butler this. Tell me more.
Smedley Butler this. Why would anyone in their right mind, like, I guess they just love blowing up.
Why they would support this? This is what I'm wondering. I think there are a lot of people that are down or ready to profit on the transfer of power from the American-led economic order to the new global economic order. And they're like, we're going to make so much money off our BlackRock investments, off of...
They already are.
And so if Nikki... So they're willing to put $5 million behind Nikki because she's probably, what I would imagine, passively go along with it. Where Trump's
and they
like,
all
no!
want to be
That's
the one
Trump
who
change.
has a president who's in their pocket, right? I mean, you want to be able to call in the favors. That's really why a lot of people donate to political campaigns to ultimately have influence over the candidate.
That's exactly what we're seeing going on right now on the Hill, right, with this immigration bill. Like most American people, I think immigration is the issue that we're probably gaslit the hardest on, but most average Americans have absolutely no demonstrable benefit from allowing illegal immigration, right? It's a wage killer. It doesn't make our cities safer. But those same people who are donating to Nikki Haley's campaign, they love the open border. They love the cheap labor, right? They don't believe in sovereignty. I also believe there's an element of ideological compromise too. But I think for so long, we've been accustomed to politics where there's really no meaningful difference between Republican and Democrat, right? Whether it's the uniparty critique or however you want to perceive of it. But I really think that's why Trump was so transformational, because he changed that and made the Republican Party really a party of the working class. And even you see Punchbowl's sort of analysis of what happened on the Hill today, specifically on that border bill. They said it was the death of the old Republican Party, right? It was so long, it used to be McConnell could get his, watered down conservative border bills passed because there wasn't meaningful pushback. And I think the Nikki Haley's of the world, the Ron DeSantis's of the world, it's sort of that deja vu to that like pre-2016 era politics where all of the Republican politicians, it was like, let's just choose. Do we want to bomb Iraq or Syria? And how many kids do we want to kill? It was basically just like picking the same style of just basically neoconservatism. And I think that's why she's not going over well. But that dying guard of donor, they're not ready to give up yet, right? They don't roll over without a fight. And I would not want Nikki Haley to be my fighter, even if she's wearing heels, as I'm sure she'd be more than certain to point out.
It's her ammo, though. I don't know what that means, but that's what she said.
Her heels, honestly, I have to say, as someone from LA, very into fashion, like her heels aren't even cute. Like I don't know if I were going down the heel path.
Those are fighting words.
They're ugly.
Do you sell heels with your company?
No, we don't do shoes. Mainly accessories and clothing. But hey, I would send Nikki Haley some clothes.
I was gonna say, would you advise on her campaign?
Well, most of our designs are like America first and low social credit score. So I don't know if she'd be into that because I don't really think she believes in it.
Let's jump to this story from SCNR.com. Large majority of Republicans support the idea of Trump being a dictator for a day. The funny thing is Trump didn't actually say he would in the literal sense. He was just like, when he was asked, he said only on day one, and so he could drill for oil and secure the border. And it's like, okay. What people are actually suggesting is that you just go and arrest everybody. Military tribunals, I think Roseanne asked for. 74% majority of Republican voters say they support the idea of former President Donald Trump being a dictator for a day if he's reelected. A new survey from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and YouGov found 36% of independent voters also support the prospect. Wow. I don't. I support Donald Trump using his legal authority, which he already has and doesn't need to be a dictator, to start getting rid of the corruption. I want evidence. I want criminal trials. We don't need a dictator just to go in and start deciding who should and shouldn't be. I want the public to see the evidence. I want it to be historic. I want it to be documented. I want there to be a book, a Wikipedia entry, talking all about all of the evidence that was uncovered and how Donald Trump got an AG in there and cleaned this place up.
I like the hysteria around the Donald Trump dictator for a day comment because it's like they're just hooked on cartoons and they're expecting the villain to be like, well, my plan is to become a dictator. Like, you think someone who actually wants to be a dictator leads with, I'm going to be a dictator.
Well, but to be fair, it's the distinction between cartoons for 10-year-olds and cartoons for 5-year-olds and cartoons for 10-year-olds. The cartoons for 10-year-olds are a little bit more sophisticated than that. Like I mentioned this before. It's a great line from Justice League where Lex Luthor, the supervillain, is running for president. And when one of the Justice League confronts him, a character called The Question, Luthor says, do you have any idea how much power I would have to give up in order to be president? It's like even 10-year-olds understand the context there. And these people are thinking like it's like they're 5 and the villain's like, I'm going to freeze the earth.
Yeah, Snidely Whiplash. You guys ever watch that?
No, what's that?
It was Rocky and Bullwinkle. That's some pretty basic stuff. That was right in your face. Snidely was like the guy who was like,
did he say, I'm going to be a dictator?
He was always like the villain. He's twirling his mustache literally.
I got to tell you, because this, I was telling this story all week about this guy I met in D.C. Quite literally told me, just you wait. When Donald Trump gets elected, you will lose all your rights. I'm like, bro.
It's projection. It's projection, though.
Totally.
I think Joe Biden is, cliche, but the true dictator, you look at whether it's the weaponization of the DOJ, the lawfare, the way that they're conducting global affairs, it's clearly just projection. And I think the old way that they did the projection playbook was sort of the Russia, like foreign collusion, because obviously the Democratic Party and of course establishment Republicans too, but are always colluding with foreign governments. But I think they know the Russia trope is sort of used up. I think you used to see the Black Lives Matter stuff always pop up right before elections, right? I think they realized that ad hominem racist attacks don't work as much anymore. And now I think they're really going down. They have 2, I would say, concurrent strategies. One is democracy's going to die in darkness and Trump is a dictator. Appeal to the neocons, we must preserve our way of life. But I also think the sort of other route that they're going down is, I don't know. I think it's really just I don't know. It's just always projection, and it's I don't know. It's just the same. It's like you could do that with every story.
I kind of think we're headed towards a wartime presidency, as many people try to refer to it. I don't know what to do. I don't know how you solve this problem, but a bifurcated culture, a postmodernist and a, like traditional American Republicanist world, they can't coexist. And so I don't think it's a matter of what anyone wants to happen. It doesn't matter if you want Trump to be a dictator or not. There will come a point where there is no question.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to ask. Trump will not decide. It will just be in front of you. When you face down with like far leftists trying to seize territory in cities like they did in 2020, shooting and killing people, eventually you get to the point where you're like, then we have to have armed guards and creating checkpoints. It's not a question of I would like or I would not like. When the far left, if the far left violence exceeds a certain degree, there will be a response. And then you'll walk down the street and you're going to have National Guard and they're going to be like, you need an ID and you're whatever. And you're going to be like, this is dictatorship. And they're going to be like, okay, if we leave, the far leftists will come in with their guns again. And then what do?
I also
create a
think
republic.
It's like, what is it? The like thesis, antithesis, synthesis, or whatever that is. It's like, I think the reason why, I think there is some truth to this poll in the sense that Joe Biden is such a weak man. Trump is such a strong man. And I think when you look around the country and you see particularly what's going on at the southern border, I mean, I think you make a valid case for wanting a strong leader who's actually going to protect national sovereignty. And I think in some ways it sort of reflects that longing, that yearning for like America to be a country again with a leader, with a government that actually does something to fight for the people. And it's not all totally decentralized and sent out to all these like swampy bureaucratic agencies. Like I think from a social perspective, the desire for a dictator, there is something interesting there in terms of how it interplays with, I think, a lot of the critiques we hear of like decentralizing and deconstructing the administrative state, right? Because that really is a way of diffusing power to unelected bureaucrats. And I don't know about you, I personally would rather have dictator Trump than President Trump compounded with, like bureaucrat, overlord Fauci and Milley.
And that's probably it.
Yeah.
When it comes to this question, people are probably saying there is too much corruption in DC. It is a swamp and you need someone to just go in and drain it.
It's if you don't know how to solve the problem, you may lash out at stupid solutions because you just want to get this problem over with. Like if the problem is deep state corruption, that's a big problem. How do you solve it? Well, a lot of people are like, I don't know. Best thing I can think of is some guy goes in and does it. But like there's ways to do it, technical ways to do it. You just got to have controlled power sources. You got to have control of mass media like airwaves, like radio waves and stuff like that. If you have your own satellites, things like that, you can kind of maintain open systems where information can be traded, behaviors can become transparent. And then I think the system kind of solves itself.
I think part of why people who support Trump understood that the dictator comment was more about I'm going to take action immediately is because they're tired of the way that the Biden administration does implement authoritarian culture while pretending they're for you. They're pretending they're for democracy. And I think the idea that someone would be direct and be like, yes, on the first day, I'm immediately going to do these things is refreshing. It's appealing. Like you're saying, it's an appeal to strength. And I think Biden is notoriously unpopular and he doesn't have the approval ratings that really I think would predict an easy win to re-election. And so ultimately Trump, by just being direct, saying these are the problems you're facing and I'm going to fix them. And if I have to be, if I have to make that my number one priority from day one, I will do that for you, makes people feel like they can trust him to change. Whereas the Biden administration is sort of always saying a lot of things and doing nothing. I mean, right, to talk about the border, they initially, with all of the razor wire stuff, said, you have to pull the razor wire out because it's inhumane and people will drown. And they're like, that's why I put it, Texas says, that's why I put it there, because we don't want people to swim across the river. It's dangerous. At which point the Biden administration said, actually, you needed our approval for that. And that's why you have to take it out. I mean, the Biden administration is ultimately trying to keep the borders open and they want there to be a flow of illegal immigration into the country. But they won't just say that. And so that fact that someone would be like, yes, I would be a dictator to change, to turn the ship, to make things right, I think freaks out people who know ultimately Trump has the same values as them and wouldn't be a dictator, as opposed to someone who is constantly saying, no, I have your values, but I'm lying to you constantly and doing one thing, claiming to be doing another.
Yeah, they Because if you say, I'm not a dictator, but you're signing executive orders over and over and over, then you are a dictator and you're lying to people.
Yeah, I'm not a dictator, but you all have to wear masks. I'm not a dictator, but you have to leave the military if you don't get the vaccination. I'm not a dictator, but I'm going to fight the state's rights to defend itself until I am left at the point where states are starting to turn against me. I'm not a dictator, you are, but I'm actually going to do everything I can to maintain as much power and be disruptive as possible.
I'm not a dictator, but my family's going to profit millions of dollars off of contracts with China and Ukraine.
Right. I'm not a dictator, but my son's going to get a really, really nice plea deal until you guys catch it. And I have to sort of pretend otherwise.
I got like two thoughts. One is Trump, he kind of got caught out of context saying that he was going to be a dictator on day one. They asked him in that interview, are you going to be a dictator again? And he's like, not even listening. He's like, only on day one, I'm going to close the border.
He was joking.
And
yes?
yeah, and he wasn't really even answering the question they asked. He was just like, on day one, I'm going to do some extreme stuff. But this fervor for that even people would consider wanting this dictatorship in any way is like Roman Republic stuff. I mean, Julius Caesar came back with his troops and established a dictatorship because the Republic was so busted.
Was it 200 years of prosperity?
Well, they wrote the history books, so it's tough to tell. And I'm sure the rich Romans were getting on very good. But
there's no
the rest
way
of
for
society.
There's no way for 200 years you suppress dissent from people fleeing the country, especially in that era.
Man, I have no idea. They wrote all those history books. It's tough to tell. They just conquered and conquered.
Yeah, but anybody
and
could just leave and be like, here's what happened, and people would know. You know what I mean? Like, it would be within the writings of all neighboring nations, whatever, that it was terrible within the Roman Empire. There was no prosperity.
I don't hear a lot about the brutality of the Romans. I know that they were brutal to the non-Romans, to the sub-citizens, the slave class and the foreigners that lived there, but they don't talk a lot about it in the history books, at least not the ones I've been reading.
Hey, we have talked about this quite a bit, that are we in the collapse of the Roman Empire or the start of the Roman Empire?
Yeah, it's like the Republic is shuddering, I would say. That doesn't mean it's going to fall apart necessarily, but it feels like the walls are shaking right now. And like, whoa, what's that green ooze pouring out of the walls? How long has that been in there?
What if there's
110 years?
An attempt on Trump's life and it causes him like disfiguration to his right side, but he also has to use like a voice box, so he's wearing like a mask. And then he's just like, I have dissolved the Senate. This is the new American Empire.
Yeah, no Mace Windu heroics. We don't need any of that. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's cyclical, if there's anything we can do to help stop or make it better. I'm sure there is. Just gotta be
make what better?
The transition from the American Republic into the New World Order. Like it's gonna be, we're part of a bigger global system now. The Republic's got some awesome ideals. And if we can inspire free speech all over the globe, that could be part of the system.
That's not part of the global agenda.
Corporations don't like free speech. They want the owner of the corporation to run the show. That's the problem.
I think part of the reason that they have been so adamantly opposed to Trump winning this year, and they've really, I think, ratcheted up the attacks, particularly on the lawfare front. I think if you look at a lot of these kind of global agendas, whether it's like the UN and their sustainable development goals, the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, a lot of, or even the Made in China 2025 initiative, but a lot of these kind of master plans, I would say the kind of ideological underpinning or framework, like if you really drill down as to what actually constitutes the New World Order, they're all set to conclude in 2030. And I think if you do the math, right, 2025, the term would start, it ends 2029. A Trump term now, as like a second, third Trump term, would be absolutely, a death knell, I think in some ways you could argue, for a lot, or at least a strong impediment to for their ability to really roll out a lot of these global agendas. And I think that's why they are in such heavy, full out panic mode about ensuring that Trump doesn't win this election.
Yeah, and I think that's backed up by the way he ripped up the Trans-Pacific Partnership day 3 after he got in, was like, we're not selling out.
Defunding the WHO. I think you can definitely make the case that he could have done more, but put it this way, if the only person in between us becoming, New World Order, WHO, WEF, UN slaves, would you rather have it be Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, or Joe Biden?
Well, I know Trump a little better. I know the people that know him anyway, and I'd like to hang out with him. But I think that if he starts saying like, we all want a new world order, this American military base everywhere stomping on the neck of humanity is not good anymore. Let's figure out a better way. If he was like open, he's like, we're going to make a new world order and it's going to have American ideals at the center of it.
A new world order with American nationalism, economic nationalism. But I'm not speaking on behalf of Trump, but his conception, I think, particularly if you look at how he has reformed the Republican Party, putting back in that economic nationalist populist perspective, at the bedrock of that is sovereignty, and the bedrock of sovereignty is borders. And that concept of borders and nation states, whether it's the Westphalian nation system or what we should have here with a secure southern border, that is fundamentally at odds with the concept that these New World Order type groups are pushing, which is global government, right? Because that implies that we're global citizens and that there's a global sovereign. And I don't think that Donald Trump or the kind of new version of the MAGA Republican Party believes in that to any extent. And I would say look no further than the fact that the guy who was advising the WHO on drafting a lot of the pretext to the current pandemic treaty that they're debating was Joe Biden's top biohealth advisor. So there's this very, very icky overlap between a lot of the WHOs, that even Joe Biden's supply chain sustainability coordinator is like a World Economic Forum alum. So all of these people have like weaseled their way in to really, I was going to say subvert, but it's not to subvert the Biden regime, it's to amplify, and I think to really complement what is this idea of global government, this idea that being an American doesn't mean anything. Look no further than the fact that in New York, they're handing out IDs to illegal aliens. That is like such a metaphorical example of what American citizenship means to these people. And it means nothing because they don't believe in borders, because they're globalists to their core.
Let's jump to, with a hard segue, to some cultural news, because this one's awesome. Shane Gillis is going to be hosting SNL on Saturday. And this is important for all of you because he was fired by Saturday Night Live in 2019 for surfaced jokes he had made on podcasts many years prior, where I think he did like an Asian accent and he made what they called homophobic jokes. So SNL said, "You're fired. You can't work here anymore." Now, considering many see him as the up and coming star in the comedy circuit, one of the funniest comedians in the world, SNL asked him to host. And once again, the woke machine is trying to cancel him. But oh, it's so funny. It's not working. NBC News writes, with Shane Gillis' return to SNL, Asians ask when they'll stop being the punchline. I just love this so much. I don't count. Everybody knows that. I don't count. But, if I were to agree with them, I would. So first, I'll say, I agree with the woke left on discrimination and all that stuff. Now, as officially an Asian person, because I agreed with you, don't forget, I'm not asking this question at all. Quite literally don't care if he does an Asian accent. People do it all the time. I'm not going to cry and whinge about South Park. In fact, I love the City Walk guy. He's great. We all love him. It turns out he's a white guy the whole time. Did you guys ever watch that one?
No.
It turns out the City Walk guy was like the Chinese guy at the Chinese food restaurant.
So it was okay that Shane Gillis made fun of it then, right?
He didn't make fun of that, but it turned out, the South Park guys...
Canonically,
he's actually a white guy who's got what is he, like schizophrenic or something?
I think there are like levels of comedianship that you get to where you're no longer canceled. Like Dave Chappelle, like some guys are so awesome that it's just like you let them say whatever. And Shane's one of those guys.
And financially secure, right? I mean, that's part of it. You're able to say whatever because you risk less. I just listened to Shane Gillis's podcast with Theo Vaughn, and I don't follow his stand-up very much, so I don't know what he's like normally, but it was definitely interesting during the episode hearing him be like, oh, you got to be careful. Like, you're not supposed to say stuff like that. It seems like cancel culture has definitely had an effect on him.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a confidence boost to be able to go back on a show that fired you over something you had, you couldn't take back and you kind of had no control over.
I mean, that really made his career, though, to be honest. And I know that he recognizes that, too. But it's funny you bring up that particular podcast if anyone wants to go watch it, because Theo Vaughn brings up a lot of points about this exact thing within the whole comedy world. And it's and this whole being canceled by people that don't even really care about what you do and don't even like the stuff that you're putting on the world in the first place.
They're not going to drop him from hosting.
No,
I'm willing to bet then when I bet he's got a contractual agreement.
Yeah.
I bet they were like, we want you to host. And he was like, okay, but you can't cancel, because people are going to be pissed. And they're like, no, we get it. There's no way SNL did not know. This is, we are winning so massively that SNL is now doing a turnaround. Remember, didn't they fire Norm Macdonald?
Yeah.
There was some other moment where he, and then he hosted and he was like, I got fired from the show for not being funny. Yeah, he's amazing.
Great.
Look at this. This is the collapse of woke dominance in the media. There's this other big news that they're going to have. They're recasting Pirates of the Caribbean for a younger cast, and they're going to have the main character played by like a young black woman. And this one's interesting because it's a hand-me-down. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. It's condescending. It's insulting. We were talking about this like 8 years ago with when they would try and race swap characters. You're taking a character that is beloved and known, who is like a white dude, and then it's a hand-me-down character. Like, oh yeah, by the way, we make him black and a woman, and now you've got a character. And it's like, no, you didn't make an original character.
Right.
For us.
I feel like that's way more insulting to say we'll just sort of recycle something else. Also, sort of unfair because that depiction of Captain Jack Sparrow is so iconic. I mean, people really loved it. That's why there were so many of them.
Of who?
Pirates of the Caribbean is Jack Sparrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know any pop culture, so when you question me, I immediately lose confidence.
I didn't understand what words you said. It sounded like converters.
It's not you said Cam Darrow.
I don't know what
And
it's
I was like, what?
I'll start again.
Jack
so
Sparrow.
The depiction of Captain Jack Sparrow is so iconic.
Sparrow, I
People
see.
loved him. That's why there were so many of them. To say, not only do you not get original content because we don't actually really care about giving you something fresh as an actor to work with, we're also going to set you up to be directly compared to a character people loved always. I mean, that's like setting someone up to fail, I feel like. Not only do they not get the chance to perform sort of authentically with their own talents and skills, they also just live in the shadow of this white guy forever.
So who's that guy? Kumail Nanjiani or whatever his name is.
It's Kumail Nanjiani.
Kumail Nanjiani. He apparently like had to get therapy because his Marvel movie bombed. Did you guys see this?
Seriously?
Yeah, I think Scanner.
Nothing
has it
wrong
on
with
the website.
therapy, I guess. I don't
Sure,
know.
but it was like his movie did so poorly. And I just find it funny because this DEI stuff getting called out, Disney, Elon Musk suing, SNL is literally asking a white man who's been attacked relentlessly by the left for being like, anti-Asian or homophobic or whatever. They're just like, we don't care. We're gonna totally bring him on. I'm just like, the writing's on the wall for these corporations. They know they're losing money by doing all this woke stuff, and I think it's only a matter of time. The movies all fall in line. The fact that Kumail guy had to get therapy, you think they're going to consider him for another lead role in one of these movies? Look at the Marvels. The worst grossing Marvel movie ever. Worse than the Hulk, which like nobody even considers to be part of it, even though it is.
Is that not counting inflation? Just pure numbers? Just gross terribly? Or is that
I mean, it's
accounting
only
for the
been like
inflation?
10 years, so I don't think inflation's playing a big role in those numbers right now. Though, to be honest, considering the past 4 years, maybe.
My initial thought was the DEI is just, I mean, the curtain's been pulled back. It's so disgusting to force certain races into positions of power just because of their skin color.
But they're not even positions of power.
Like at a corporation, they'll be like, we're going to hire you for that role, considering that role a position of power. You got the job. That's the power.
But don't they do that anyway?
It's not,
like
no.
they have DEI hirings, even if it's just a random corporation, being like,
It's not a position of power. So, for instance, I've actually experienced this. Having worked in an office with a bunch of women, I have worked with very capable women who are substantially better than half the guys. There was one producer that I worked with at Vice and later at Fusion who was like literally one of the best. And they treated her like crap. And when her documentaries actually won awards, she wasn't invited. And I'm like, see, that's a good example of them just being like, so it happens. However, that being said, there were also women who were hired just because they needed women. And then at meetings, you'd get like, do we have any ideas for pitches? And the guys would say something like, here's insert mediocre idea. Another guy would say, here's insert slightly good idea. And then the woman would go, here's insert the worst idea imaginable.
Here's woman idea.
And then everyone would be like, yeah, we're not interested in that. And then later she'd be like, they won't listen to my ideas because I'm a woman. And I'm like, I gotta be honest, like that was bad. Like there's Emmy award winning journalists here who are women. Like it's not because you're a woman, it's because you're bad at this. And the problem is when they do these quotas, it is not the best person for the job. Like Mark Cuban is purely wrong about this.
Yeah, I think it's becoming obvious to people. Like it's similar to the border crisis. It's very obvious to most people that, and it seems obvious to the producers at SNL. They're like, yo, our cast has been floundering. Like the show, I've only seen clips over the last 3 or 4 years, but it's been bad. It's been really, really bad. And Shane can come in there and show those guys how to act. Like even if it's just for one night, they're hanging out for a whole week. He's one of the funniest comedians on earth. Like he's got a vibe that's like chill but aggressive. I think it's really good for the show to have him there.
Yeah, I mean, have him back.
But the thing is, it's for business. They're doing this because they want the show to be profitable, and that is what concerns me. That business is more powerful.
Oh, it shouldn't concern you. It's good if they have him back because they're like, hey, this is much better for us. That's great. Because then they're doing what Bud Light's doing. They're saying, hey, the writing's on the wall, like Tim said, that we don't want to do this woke thing anymore because all it does is we go broke, we lose money, we go broke. Like that's what we've been saying for a long time.
And
I think it's a good thing.
I think we have to reflect on the fact that they fired him. I mean, they could have had him there balancing out the cast from the beginning, and instead they were like, no, you're too risky, we don't want you here, and now they pay the price for it.
Fired him literally day one.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Which, I mean, it's almost like recognizing that they maybe could have, I don't watch SNL, so I don't really know what they could have done. But theoretically, if you had this other voice, this other perspective on comedy, you would have balanced out your writing room in a way that maybe would have kept you more culturally relevant.
I think so. Although, arguably, yeah, I think you're right for sure. Shane being there would have been a good influence on the comedy.
And they had the option. They chose to say, no, you're too bold, you're too risky, we don't want to be on the cutting edge. And then they sent themselves back, right? They aren't that interesting anymore.
Yeah. The downside could have been that SNL clammed him up and kept him on, but kept him quiet and not funny because they didn't want to piss off the wrong people.
Yeah, I think this whole thing and being quote unquote canceled was like I said earlier, like it kind of made his career, and he's definitely realized that. And I think if like you said, he would have been like kind of hemmed up from actually being as funny as he really is and being able to explore what he's explored.
I would also argue that the career path for stand-up comedians has really broadened with the advent of podcasting and YouTube and the internet and things like that. Like if you listen to like Tina Fey talk about it, doing improv, being part of these big groups launched you into Hollywood, launched you to movies, whatever else. They didn't have the same outlets. And so in some ways, maybe by not having to immediately get on that machine, he was able to develop more more authentically as a comedian because he had to say like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to continue to hone my craft as a stand-up comedian.
Yep. It used to be Upright Citizens Brigade in Chicago, or it was like improv groups. And then those people would kind of fast track up to the SNL thing. Mm-hmm. But now like Rogan, dude, shout out to Joe Rogan for putting Shane Gillis on the map. Because when Shane got fired, it was like, he probably thought his life was over. And then Joe was like, well, actually, you're one of the coolest guys I know. Come on my show over and over. And now they're like best friends. They're like in a group of really good friends. So nice job, Joe. He knows talent when he sees it. Shane is so awesome, dude.
I mean, it looks like they're getting, in the last week, 4.5 million viewers.
Is that up or down?
I mean, it's literally down from like a long time ago. But I think they're actually doing moderately well right now.
SNL?
They're like steady.
I don't know. It's hard to find the exact numbers, to be completely honest. But it is, regardless.
Yeah, I wonder how many of those people watch it live anymore. It's 11:30 on a Saturday.
That's
there's so many other things.
That's
really?
literally
4.5 million. But there's so many other cool things you could be doing on a Saturday night than watching TV.
I don't believe it. I literally do not believe it. When we have, like on the internet, you have hard numbers right away. And even those are somewhat hard to track because you still get bot traffic and things like this. But then you get like Nielsen ratings where they're like, we estimate based on some boxes.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like the Family Guy joke where the TV executive gets a phone call and he's like, we just got 10 complaints. That means 14 billion people are mad.
I know, yeah.
That's how it works. So they're like, oh, 5 million people watched. I'm like, I don't buy it. Because I honestly don't know anybody who could name a cast member of SNL. And I know people are going to say, like, doesn't that mean they're not going outside? Bro, I go hang out National Harbor. I go hang out at these places with regular people all the time. And these things are just like, I have no idea. Could you guys name a single cast member right now on SNL?
I mean,
Keenan. Wait.
Keenan's still on the show?
Yeah.
What's his real name?
I don't know his real name, but I was gonna say Michael Shea and what's his name, Kanye Jost, like those guys. That's it.
They're
That's
on the
all
show?
I know. Yeah, they're like
One
writers.
of them's married to Scarlett Johansson. That's what I know.
Jost is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look, I know pop culture. I'm aware.
Pete's off the show. Pete, I know his first name. He had tattoos.
Davidson.
But
Pete
when
Davidson. He's not on anymore though.
But didn't he only just play himself over and over again?
Yeah, kinda. Sometimes he's funny. Who's that girl? That one girl too. No, I guess the answer is no.
We're not doing a great job. That one girl and that guy who's married to her,
Yeah.
like it's rough. I mean, I don't.
Michael Shea, Colin Jost. Who else is there? Kenan Thompson.
Keenan.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, Keenan.
can name
Kenan
all
Thompson.
the men,
He's been
but
on for
none
a
of
long
the
time,
women.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, who are the girls that are on that show?
irrelevant to us apparently.
Apparently.
I don't know. I have this list and I'm like,
Dude, the show was
Bowen Yang. Okay.
It's like it's a lot to live
Devin
up to.
Walker. Chloe Trost.
Never heard of him.
I know Kenan Thompson. He's an OG. He's been since all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sarah Sher. I have no idea who these people are.
Are this all of them
either.
forever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ego Nwodim. No idea who that is. Michael Longfellow.
Julius
Molly Kearney.
Dreyfus.
Oh, I've heard of
Molly. I know that
Molly
name.
Kearney. I've heard of her. Punky Johnson.
Funny name.
James
Bring that
Austin
one down.
Johnson. I don't know. Marcelo Hernandez. Heidi Gardner. Chloe Feynman. That one sounds kind of familiar. Andrew Dismukes. Mikey Day. Michael Shea. We know that one. Michael Shea. He's got viral clips.
Maybe because
I don't know.
with the internet, like comedy's more real. And so this corporate comedy is like obviously corporate. They can't say fuck on SNL, but I can say it on YouTube, you know, and it's actually enjoyable on this venue. But like on that, they're still like bound by these weird.
Yeah, and it's just not the only place you have to go anymore. So maybe people who would have auditioned for it and tried to get in, they think, oh, I'm too edgy. They won't take me anyway, so I won't go, and I'll start my own thing over there. I mean, in some ways, it's good, right? Because it gives other people options to start YouTube channels, start podcasts, do more live presentations. I think that, again, I feel like I can't totally critique it because I don't watch SNL regularly, but I just think that we have moved away from cable TV as a culture. And
this is not cable TV.
What is it?
This is free terrestrial network
NBC
television.
I just think
NBC.
even then, like, I feel like people have just moved away from it.
They moved away from like programming, like what do you call it? Scheduled programming.
Yeah, it's everything. People, if you want to listen to something, you listen to it on demand, and so there's not the same level. I mean, I guess this is live, so that sort of brings an element to it that maybe you'd want to watch, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem as attractive as a form of entertainment anymore.
Yeah, man, I used to watch it in the 90s with Wayne's World. I mean, that's where Mike Myers and Dana Carvey started. Wayne's World was I was going to say a YouTube skit. It was an SNL skit. Thanks, YouTube, for building yourself. Shout out to Chad Hurley and all the guys making this website. What a groundbreaking technology this was.
Yeah, it was revolutionary.
We got Ryan Long. We got all these awesome comedians doing their own thing, but they don't have a TV show like Theo Von and you know, Brian Callen and Joe Rogan. If they had a show like SNL, that'd be pretty badass.
I want to talk about this story. We actually overlooked it. It's from a week ago, but it's about something we talked about, and I think we just never it never fit into the schedule. The Boys star Erin Moriarty quits Instagram after Megyn Kelly's plastic surgery claims. Okay, first, it wasn't Megyn Kelly's claims. Megyn Kelly was picking up on a meme that everybody else was talking about, and it's actually got its own Know Your Meme page. But the meme was someone posted this picture of Erin Moriarty. She's an actress. She's on the show The Boys, and they said, "Women need to stop getting plastic surgery." And they showed this image of Erin Moriarty. She absolutely looks like she got tons of plastic. Yeah, I got to be honest. Do you guys remember when The Weeknd did that bit where he put the bandages on his face? What was he, like the Grammys or something? And then when Save Your Tears music video came out, his face was all goofy looking, and everybody thought he got plastic surgery, but it was just a joke. Like, her face looks like that. I'm not trying to be mean, but it looks like, yo, what did you do? Here's the crazy thing. She I don't think she explicitly said, "I never got plastic surgery." She said it was like, it was false. Don't say that. Actually, oh yeah, we have the Know Your Meme page where they talk about it. I wonder if they have, I think they'll have the original viral photo. It was this one right here. Royce Lopez said, "Women need to stop plastic surgery until we figure out what's wrong. Why would you ruin your face like this?" Oh. This is Erin Moriarty from The Boys. She was already very pretty. What she responded with, because this is where it started. She went after Megyn Kelly. I guess Megyn Kelly had the platform that she thought to target, but a lot of big shows, a lot of following, we're talking about it. And she was like, that photo's from when I was like underage and I'm very young. And this photo is like new. And she's like, they're all false, but she clearly looks very different. She claimed it was just like makeup, but everyone's kind of going after her over it because there's a photo here. And I think this one's more recent. Here's what matters. She ends up deleting her entire Instagram. And I don't know if she got plastic surgery or not. It certainly looks like she does. And many people are saying, yo, you did. Here's what matters, though. Yo, she thought she looked good. She thought this, like, right here. Can we pull that up? She thought that looked good. And so the question is, what is happening with social media that there are women who are like, I want to look like this. And then, I guess inversely, or subsequently, you get such a backlash to people saying you look gross that she deleted her Instagram outright. She didn't delete, like she deleted all the photos and then put up a thing being like, screw you, Megyn Kelly. I kind of feel like, you know, I don't want to be dick to her, I don't know her or anything like that. But we've got this filter crisis and this Instagram image crisis for young women. But this is actually, as bad as it is, a promising sign moving forward that these filters and the surgery is resulting in a negative backlash. And they're starting to realize, like, don't do this to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like lobotomies. They
God.
had to go.
Well, I don't know if it's a lobotomy.
I'm not saying it's like a lobotomy, but they
Like
went through
really,
the phase
really
of.
thin eyebrows that were really popular in the 90s. Like, no, don't do that.
They had to learn how horrible the lobotomy was to stop doing it to themselves, is what I was saying. Same with plastic surgery.
I am so adamantly opposed to whether it's plastic surgery, fillers, even Botox to some extent, because I think young women are being told, we were talking about this before the show, I think it's some sort of derivation of refinement culture, in the sense that you think just because your lips are bigger or whatever you get done, if your eyebrows microbladed or whatever, like you will look better. But it's not. I think once you enter that realm, it's like that picture. Frankly, to me, again, no disrespect, but she looks like an alien. Like she doesn't look human, whether it's the buccal fat removal or whatever she's doing. And I think you're very correct in terms of like the psychological harm to young women with the filters, and you see stuff online and you're like, what? I don't look like that. And there's that side of the issue. But I also think too that you have been seeing, although you guys probably don't because you're not young women, but maybe you share the same sentiment. Like they are really, really, really pushing Botox and fillers at a much younger age now. Like I always talk about my mom with this, like it seems like now the age that they're trying to prime you to say that Botox, you need to get it, is like 22, 23, where it used to be in your, like that's the new thing.
Like Kylie Jenner.
Yeah, because of that. And I think in some ways the critique of that is like the big pharma, right? Like this big beauty, right? Wants people to be buying into the system.
I figured it out.
And because you have to maintain it.
I know what's going on.
on.
It's intentionally being done by these big tech companies to convince women to start looking more and more plastic and fake, so that way when the androids start integrating in society, no one will know the difference.
No, I honestly thought for a while it was because it's trying to make everyone's face look more the same. Because if you get surgery, like I think I referenced this tweet once, but there were some girls like, I asked my surgeon if the Botox I got in my face is going to make me, how many years it's going to take off me. And he's like, no, you'll just look the same as everyone else who's Botox who's your age. Right. And these things can tend to come in trends, right? So like right now they were all getting the fat taken out of their mouths, which makes the cheekbones more prominent. Or, you know, maybe they'll all want eyebrow lifts, so they're all do their like some of it is makeup, some do the same way. But then when you're doing this face technology, it's because all of the faces are averaging out to be the same thing, but not in a good way.
So I love this this trope about like old people pulling their pants up really high. We used to have this in like the 90s. The TV shows would always make fun of old people. There was one where like, I can't remember what cartoon it is, but it's like the character gets turned into an old man, and as soon as he does, his pants go straight up to his armpits. That's not because old people do it. It's because a generation did it. And so the younger generation did not do it. The idea that it was because you were old was just because people saw old people doing it all the time. Right now, we don't have a generation of elderly plastic surgeried up, tattooed plastic people. It is going to be wild when we do. Could you imagine in like 40 years what these people are going to look like?
What the buccal fat that you're taking out is going
to
do. I can
man.
Well,
and
I was being serious with Kylie Jenner.
They're like, their cheeks are going to rot open. Like there's nothing in there anymore.
And I mean, this girl, Erin Moriarty did say, you know, when I was younger, my face looked slightly different. That's fair. Everyone's face changes a little bit as they age, but all of the women who get Botox or anything else, that stuff has to be maintained or it shifts. I mean, you see this over and over again with celebrities who have had bad work done or just work done really early. They have to continue to go under the knife or go under the needle, I guess, to get it maintained, which means, to your point, they're always paying for it. They are consistently a customer, let alone the fact that like some of the augmentations that you can get done can cause you, you know, different issues. Your body can reject, you know, breast implants or whatever. They're making it so you're medically dependent for a long time because you're always trying to look younger, and the fads that change the fads always change, so you're constantly trying to adjust your face to fit in with the youngest generation.
I think it's the irony, or I guess paradox of feminism, because I'm sure they say, oh, I can do whatever I want with my face. I wear makeup for myself, right? I'm getting my buccal fat removed for myself.
Sure.
But it's not. You're seeking validation from other people, but the prime beneficiary and people who profit off of that usually would be slamming big pharma, but it's the big beauty industry. And I don't know if you saw that trend about like the young girls who are like 8 years old going into Sephora. That's crazy that 8-year-olds are wearing so much makeup. And I have to say, this is a hot take. I am so anti-plastic surgery. Having grown up in Los Angeles, I have seen so many young girls to the point where I'm like, I don't even think it's legal to operate on you. Get work done, where it's like, you don't need it. You're the most beautiful you'll ever be. You're perfect. But I think it's sort of like transgender inspired. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I think if you look at some of the surgeries and the stuff that they're getting done, it is the same thing.
It's
that
to
like
make masculine and feminist
faces
look more similar.
It's the same stuff that male to female transgender people get. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like if you make it so all the women's faces look the same and they look actually like they have some masculine tendencies, you're normalizing people who are like, well, I'm actually going to live this way. It
makes femininity easier to achieve when the concept of being a feminine woman is like, you know, the bimbo look of huge lips, huge brows, big cheeks, because then guys can
fake
do that
eyelashes,
too, right?
all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The other
Like,
part
what-
is that women, just like people come out and say, I regret, genital alteration surgeries, there are people who come out and say, I regret having this work done to my face. This was Bella Hadid somewhat recently, who said, I had this nose job, I think when she was like 16, pretty young. And she said, the nose that I had was reflective of my culture and ancestry, and I wish that I hadn't have changed it. I mean, the things that women are doing to feel like they are achieving the Instagram level of beauty is so disconnected from reality that if they unplug from it, I think that they wouldn't hate themselves so much.
I mean, it looks like she got lip fillers, doesn't it?
She got lip fillers because it looks like the shape of her lip changed.
She got her brows, I think
I think she's had
microbladed,
and a
done.
nose job.
Yeah, definitely nose job.
I do think, a lot of women,
and
their
the chin
faces like
filler
lose
jaw-
fat.
Yeah,
but
the
it's
chin
too
filler,
dramatic.
Jaw filler is a huge thing.
She said all these videos are false, but never explicitly said I never got surgery. And so a lot of people responded being like, stop lying.
Fake
But there are like videos from plastic surgeons being like, dude, she didn't get surgery. It's like she was saying that she got her contours done or whatever. What is that, like makeup?
Yeah, like she has
Can
something
contour.
emphasizing her cheekbones.
That is true. You can see it on her face.
But I think it's enough where I would think that she has some kind of implant or
She
something.
used to not have a jawline before. Now she has a jaw.
Yeah, she had a much more
yeah.
round face, and it's not enough to be like, oh, well, I just grew up, I lost the baby fat. Like it's more
And
dramatic
that's
than
fake
that.
hair too.
I would also argue
But
that
it
like
is-
she looks like she's had a brow lift because like the hooding on her eyes seems different to me in a way that's not just like, oh, I got older, my face changed. Like it's too dramatic.
It's wild that she took this photo of herself and she was like, I look good. And then she
She looks
posted
like
it.
an alien.
But everyone around her told her she looked good. The woman who
Yeah.
did her makeup, the woman who did her hair, they're like,
The woman she paid to do her makeup.
right. And who get exposure if she's they're tagged in her Instagram post. And other
Well,
girls
that
are
didn't
like,
work.
well, how do I look like her?
They got exposure.
Who's going to hire this makeup artist now?
There's three
Oh,
things.
transgender people.
Three things that make women attractive to men. I was told lately is symmetry, the hip to waist ratio, and the illusion of health. So it's not necessarily that they're healthy; it's that they seem healthy to the man.
And if they're watching the Tucker Putin interview.
Well, that's the hottest. That goes without.
You're at a bar and she's on her phone and you look over and she's watching Tucker Carlson interview Vladimir Putin. You're like,
or
"Ooh."
she's watching Timcast.
Yeah, that's
Perhaps,
what I'm talking about. So they're going for symmetry with this plastic surgery. They want to, but it does not seem healthy. That's the problem with plastic surgery is it doesn't give off the illusion of health. It gives off the illusion of I've got botulism in my face or I've got I've got some weird chemicals
Damage.
under my
It's so
skin.
risky.
I saw this. There's a really funny meme, and it's like woman, and she's looking at a shampoo bottle, and it says shampoo for dry and damaged hair, and then it's like man, and it's like 6-in-1 men's hair, armpit, knees, skin, cloth, carpet, engine cleaner. It's like that's about right.
Yeah.
I go to the hotels, and it's like shampoo and body wash, and I'm like, what?
You're like, okay.
I just hate
guess.
when these people
I'm pretty
lie
sure it's the same thing. I think they're lying to everybody.
and they say like, I'm doing it for myself. It's empowering to me. It's like, just cut the crap. And then I'm sure like these
Women
the
are doing
same-
it for other women.
Of course. I do think there is an interesting.
She's not complaining about the guys who said it. She's complaining about Megyn Kelly.
But like, I feel like women perceive when women think what is attractive, they're looking at it from a very female perspective. In other words, like what girls consider attractive is different from guys. And I think in some ways, I don't think that is attractive at all. But like what women have been told is attractive coming from, I guess it big beauty. I don't know what the right term would be, but is that look like that is that is an on trend look.
It's on
which
trend.
is
I think that's the perfect way to put it,
concerning,
which is
but
like
yeah.
women are looking to see if you're on trend, if you're doing the current things, right? Whereas men,
Where
because
men
a
are
lot
like,
of it
yeah.
is biological, the things that they find attractive or desirable kind of stay the same.
Yeah.
But beauty industry standards and trends change all the time. So women are looking to see if you are like fashionable, whereas men are looking to see if you're attractive. And do whatever you want to do. If you want to look attractive for men, if you want to look trendy for women, it doesn't matter to me. You just have to acknowledge. I think this is the problem with, she got upset with Megyn Kelly because women are not supposed to attack or be mean to other women. But I think true friendship would be able to say like, hey, I don't think that's the best look for you. I don't know that you need to go get all of these fillers. I think you're okay the way you are.
And she's
Well,
doing more
maybe
harm.
women friendship, man friendship would be like, oh, what did you do to your face, bro?
But she's
Get
doing
that
more,
off.
She's doing more harm to young women by passing that off as natural and acting like people have noses like that and your brows could be that full and your hair could look like that and you're like or that growing up 3 to 4 years, you're going to look that different. That is a much more harmful narrative than women pointing out, hey, you made some really dumb decisions. You messed up again, we weren't saying she was ugly to begin with. I think the real tragedy in the story is that she was a very beautiful girl.
Yeah, but her argument is she didn't get surgery. You're just calling her old.
What's wrong with being old? Like, this is
No. This is the point. She said
But that's
she
not
did
how
not.
people age.
She did not get surgery. She got makeup done. And everyone's posting a picture of her when she was young saying she was beautiful, and then a picture of when she's old saying she's ugly. Like, it's not just this one photo. It's there's where do they have it? This photo here on the left. Here we go. This one. Wheels on a shopping cart be like, and it's her when she's like 17 and then her when she's like 30. And this is what she's saying. She's like, I didn't get surgery. You're just posting pictures of me now being like, you're ugly. So it's like she got old and now they're calling her ugly.
Oh, wow. I wonder if she has an eating disorder and it's just a lot of makeup.
I mean,
Is that possible?
her cheeks are sunken in right here, and it makes her cheekbones stick out much more than when she was like younger or whatever.
She has a very round face. I also feel like that buckle fat look, first of all, it's like so on trend with all of that
Right.
Hollywood crowd. And that's just not a very natural like physiognomy thing, I think, for a pretty round face American person to have. Maybe if you're like Native American and you have super high cheekbones, if you're like Eastern European or something. But I don't buy it.
What about makeup, you guys think? Like, because I've always found
Gross.
it's like, yeah, I think it's unnecessary. I feel like it clouds the woman. Like, it kind of.
I agree 1,000%. And I think part of the critique is that a lot of the times, I really don't think you look better. Like I said, I think it is refinement culture to some extent. Like, yeah, your lips will be a different shade, but different isn't always better. And I think too, a lot of this is what I've sort of learned, the toxic chemicals and the endocrine disruptors and all the phthalates and all these products aside, like, it really is just an industry that preys on the vulnerabilities and insecurities of women. And that's why I think the real irony in how you see it really be weaponized, that prevailing narrative, right, that women do makeup for themselves, which is BS. It's not true. But the corporations need that narrative because that helps their bottom line.
I think that's why they blended. Right now, the big movement is to have it be like skincare makeup, right? Like all of the things that you can have are actually skincare. And so it's not makeup and whatever else. When actually women have worn makeup for hundreds of years. Like, if you want to, that's fine. But I don't think that you're ever going to be able to wear enough makeup to fundamentally change your face. If your face is fundamentally changed, you have probably turned to some kind of intervention from a
Remember
doctor.
when Jordan Peterson talked about why women wear makeup?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's to enhance. It's to make the woman look like she's fertile. Like
Ovulating.
the lips puff out. They become more red. Blood rushes to the lips, so they're
and the
simulating
cheeks.
that.
Yep.
I think it's transhumanist. I think a lot of this stuff is part of a
Makeup.
transhumanist
It all
movement.
started several thousand years ago when women were rubbing berries on their lips.
For sure.
That was the beginning of
But
transhumanism.
there really is a difference, though, and not to get too in the weeds with makeup. You guys don't strike me as the makeup tutorial type, but like, there's a difference between, I think, putting on like darker lipstick and like lining your lips and mascara. That is like enhancing your natural beauty. But what you really saw with the Kardashians and the shift in this was this concept of contouring, which is literally adding different shades and hollowing out parts of your face to change, not enhance, but to entirely change your face. And when you see those crazy YouTube tutorials of like the different shades of colors, the shades of brown around the eyes, again, I'm wearing makeup. I'm happy to admit
But
that.
there's some that
a
say like,
difference.
I remember there's a tutorial and it's like how to look like you had a nose job without actually getting nose job. And it's like her really intensely using all kinds of shades to change her nose. And at a certain point you want to be like, what are you going to do when you have to take that off?
But
There's the
I
eye
didn't do
thing
anything.
too.
Yeah.
Where the women have like they put white slightly around their eye to make their eyes look bigger.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Is this all like the Kardashians? Was that late 90s, early 2000s?
2000s.
Because that's when things started to change. In the 80s, it was way too much makeup, big hairspray. Then in the 90s, people started to get more real. Like women started to look normal.
They'll always
and
go
then it
through
shifted.
trends.
It like
But
exploded in the
I really
early
think
2000s.
that the like trans community, I'm not saying it's like the individual trans people, but whatever the agenda, like those nefarious forces, I think they loved the commodification of womanhood and femininity as, orange foundation with really hollowed out
that's drag.
cheekbones. But I'm saying what you're seeing in the way women's makeup is going, I think it is going like a drag route in some ways, right?
Absolutely.
Well, and the rise of the Kardashians, to me, it coincides with the rise of male YouTube makeup artists getting really popular who would do these really strong contours, who would have these really block brows. And that look is somewhere between the Kardashians and drag, and it sort of stayed that way and became trendy among young girls.
What I love is if you're a male YouTube makeup guy, you probably are more likely to get sponsored. You are more likely to get sponsored by a makeup company because makeup companies had 50% of the potential market share because only women do it. And so their mentality is, if we convince men to wear makeup, we will double our market share. And you get a bunch of male influencers.
You go into Sephora now, and there used to never really be pictures of men.
Right.
Now you go around, and it's not just men. It's like men.
We're going to go to Super Chats because we're going over. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us. Become a member because the members only uncensored show will be up in about a half an hour, and you don't want to miss it. It'll be at timcast.com on the front page. And we're having a live event in 1 month. We're going to put up tickets, members only. It's a private event. So this may be through email only, actually. I want to give everyone a heads up. We may just email out the notice being like, here's the email. Pick up your tickets now. First come, first serve. We're only selling 50 of them. But we may do these live events in Martinsburg, West Virginia, once a month. And then maybe if we feel like we might do more than that, who knows? Depends on how successful they are. But we will read your Super Chats for now, so smash that like button. Let's go. Tim Jake says your broadcast is up early today. Sometimes. Just depends on if we know what the story is, and it's easy to do. So we're up here before doing pre-production, choosing story selection, what's the top story, and things like this. And this one's obvious. Tucker Carlson news was huge, the EU sanctions, and then, of course, we're waiting for that interview to drop. And then you had these viral tweets to the tune of like 5 to 10 million hits on Twitter claiming he was on this hit list, so he definitely wanted to address that. Daniel Karimian. Tucker planned on interviewing Putin when he was with Fox until his team discovered the NSA was spying on them. They were reading his texts and emails. Yeah, I think I heard that. That was like a big deal. Barely a Millennial says Trump v. Anderson case on SCOTUS docket tomorrow. How do you see that going? Also, if you've never watched 24, you should. Could never be made today. Anderson, that's the ballot case.
Let me
Which
double
one is
check
that?
before I say anything.
I believe that's the ballot access one, right?
I think so. He's got so many cases that sometimes when it's the specific name,
Trump.
court related to the 14th Amendment of the United States. Yeah.
I think Trump has declined to appear, but this will be interesting to say the least. Should be really, really interesting. I mean, what if SCOTUS says, no, he's out? That's why Matt Gaetz and Elise Stefanik were like, we're going to have this resolution saying he denied insurrection. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's definitely strategic. I think it's unlikely that they say he's out, but I just don't trust anything. It's hard to make a prediction.
They're going to say convict him. They're going to say if he's not been convicted, you can't remove him. It could be interesting, though. They may come back and say elections are to be held in accordance with the state legislature's approval as per the Constitution, period. Have a nice day. The Democrats are going to say that, of course, because all the Democratic justices care about is whether or not they gain power for their cult. The conservatives are going to be like, we are honorable and have integrity, and the Constitution says the states are in charge. That's it. They're going to say, if you run your election the way you want to run it, we got no issue. In that case, Maine pulls him off the ballot instantly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Trump could, with RFK Jr. in the race, Trump could win Maine. That's the craziest thing. Not that he would, but if RFK Jr. pulls enough away. Let's go. Keith says super PACs have to go. Yeah, not a big fan, but there's a challenge. You can spend your money however you see fit. I was arguing with these dudes in like 2012 outside of CPAC. I shouldn't say arguing, I was talking. And like Dana Lash was outside and everyone was like all gawking at her. All these leftists were like, look who it is. It's her. She's evil. And I was like, I don't like the idea of all this unlimited spending in politics because it just means the wealthy have instant access that regular working people don't. And then some guy said to me, he was like, you have money on you? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, you can't spend it on these products. I said so. And I'm like, we do that all the time. Kids can't buy beer. You can't buy, certain contraband things. We could certainly say you can't spend money on politics. His argument was, I earned the money. I worked hard. I should have a right to spend it on whatever I want. And if I want to buy a billboard saying vote for somebody, that's my free speech. And I was like, sure. But we do, as a government, say some things can't be bought. You can't go to a grocery store and buy heroin. So there are some things you cannot spend your money on. And that was the gist of the argument. I do understand that argument. I agree with the concept. If I want to buy a billboard, why is anyone allowed to stop me? It's my free speech. That's a PAC. Political Action Committee says we want to do it. How do you tell them they can't spend their money on what they want to say? So there's rules. Not that anyone follows them. Christina Pasafong says, shout out Mason DeChamps, a.k.a. Pro-Life Spider-Man. He free climbed the Sphere in Las Vegas today. Let's get him on IRL. Really? Well, I will say, you know, a lot of the publicists who hit us up don't understand what IRL is. This is a topical news commentary show, not an interview program. That's why we launched The Culture War, which you can find over at Tenet Media on YouTube. That's the interview show.
Yo, Mason is awesome. I met him at Turning Point. We got to have him out here someday.
Culture War, I mean.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's just a great human.
It's entirely possible he's capable of handling a news commentary show.
He
But
does
it's like if you want to know about someone's life story,
Yeah, it didn't
Culture
happen
War
here.
fits better.
Yeah, he'd be great. Talk about climbing. Like, he climbs buildings. It's crazy with his bare hands.
Let's get it. Sterling Wilson III says, don't worry, Ian. We've all been there with loud eating and drinking. LOL.
Thanks. I'll never forget tonight.
Oh, yeah. Eloy Lopez Curiel says, thank you. Thank you so much for reading my last comment yesterday about my books. I literally screamed in my car. I watch y'all every single day. Blessings, amigos. Right on. Well, congratulations. Good luck. Happy to hear. Justin SLA says, Daria Dugina is marked as liquidated on that list. Yeah, a lot of people are pointing out the list that Tucker Carlson is on has a bunch of people and they're described as liquidated when they die. So, you know, and she was assassinated. So, you know, yep.
They're just keeping track of what's going on. They don't
Sure.
have anything to do with it.
All right. The Sig P says Gonzalo Lira died in Ukraine, but it's not a kill list. That's exactly why I said it's half wrong, half true. It's not a literal kill list. It's it's an enemies list, and we know it happens to people who are listed as enemies. So it's like, but more to the point, it was half true because he wasn't just added to a list. He's been on it for months. So everyone's like, he was added to this list because of his interview with Putin. It's like, he was on it in August. You know what I mean? Like they've not liked this guy for a long time. So certainly, man, Tucker better be careful. Need some good security. You know what I mean? All right. Wyatt Kaldenberg says 24 reminds me of 68. Nam peaked and people were talking World War III. The right and left were talking Civil War. LBJ was so unpopular, he wouldn't seek a second term. King and RFK were feared by the deep state and shot. Yikes.
That's why you want to remember history. So you're not doomed to repeat it.
Yeah. Gamer J says, if the border protection bill included an allowance of 5,000 Russians into Ukraine daily and 5,000 Palestinians into Israel per day, they would all vote against it, including the media. They're all corrupted. Yeah, ALX had that tweet saying, propose a bill that allows 5,000 Russians into Ukraine every day and see what they say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'd be like, no.
And House Democrats are also they're voting down standalone bills. They want all of the aid and everything lumped together. I don't understand this. Like, if this is something that's so urgent, these countries desperately need funding, why wouldn't you compromise and vote on a standalone bill? Instead, it's like, no, everything has to be lumped together, and we can sneak these weird provisions in.
The difficult thing is they tried to do a standalone Israel aid package, but fiscal Republicans were like, no way, we're not funding Israel. But the strategy there was to force the Democrats to reject it. And I guess they sort of got that because it was voted down and it was only 14 Republicans. But that's kind of the idea. Now, Democrats are going to have to explain to most people why they're choosing the path they're choosing and opposing Israel.
I just don't think
Not that,
they could say anything that would make sense. But I'm just optimistic on their voter base.
The October 7th thing. The October 7th terror attacks and mass killings really caused problems for the establishment and the woke. Like BLM's posting the paraglider. This is the point the Republicans are trying to make. Force the Democrats into a position they can't win.
Yeah, I think that people think the deep state is like an American thing, but it's like bigger than this country.
Kato Asta says, headlines when Tucker interviews Putin. Putin propagandist deserves to be imprisoned as a traitor to democracy. Headlines when BBC interviews Putin. Heroic journalist gives us closed curtain view of the raving authoritarian madman bent on democracy's destruction. Yep. I love this. There's like this BBC guy and he's like, Tucker Carlson says we've not even tried to interview him. Of course we tried. He just won't let us. It's not surprising, dude. You work for the British government. You are at war with Russia. Of course he won't grant you an interview. Tucker Carlson's a private citizen who is considered opposition media in this country. Of course he'll get an interview. These people are so dumb. Why do you think it is these leftists don't come on this show? We invite them every single time. Because they view us as enemies and they know that we will debunk all their lies. That's it. They're full of it. Handful of them will come on, the honest ones. But that's about it. Honest but wrong, perhaps. Not wrong on everything. I am happy to say that when Destiny and I were talking about, gender ideology and things like that, I had many facts that were wrong, and we corrected them on the air and had our discussion to determine what we thought was right and wrong. And I respect Destiny, though I think he's wrong. I think we agree a lot on facts, but I think he has bad moral opinions. That's really what it comes down to. The rest of the left, they just make things up and then claim other people make things up. My favorite thing was, I gave that shout out to Taylor Lorenz when she was like, Tim Pool's not a journalist. He only comments on other people's stuff and he's dishonest. So I'm kind of like, okay, if I'm only referencing other people's journalism, you're saying these journalists are putting out fake news. I'm being dishonest by reporting on what they've said is basically her point. Okay, I'll take it, I guess. But I will stress, I host an interview show once a week. That's journalism. Otherwise, Christiane Amanpour is not a journalist.
I'd like to have Taylor Lorenz in for the culture war. That'd be cool.
Well, she would not do it because she would get obliterated. Like everything she says, I'd be like, here's the New York Times saying you're wrong. What say you? And she'd be like, you're being dishonest. I'm like, I guess the New York Times is wrong. Okay, next subject. Here's NPR saying you're wrong. I mean, let me do this. What do you think Taylor Lorenz would say if you went to her and said there are serious concerns that China was taking people's DNA through COVID tests to create a DNA database? What do you think she'd say? That's crazy. It's a conspiracy. NPR reported that. My favorite story. It's like NPR reported this. That's the source. Google it. NPR reported fears that China could be collecting DNA through COVID tests.
BGI Genomics.
Is that the company? There you
What's
go.
it called?
You see?
BGI Genomics.
But she's going to be like, that's not true. That's a
I think anything you would present as from you, she would disagree with on his face because there's...
But none of it's from me. Like she said.
Right. But you wouldn't lead with NPR said this. So she'd be like, oh, Tim, everything you're saying is crazy.
Oh, right. And then when she said that's crazy, I'd say, oh, you think that's fake? Okay, here's NPR. That's where I got the news.
Well, NPR must have brought this up to dissuade. Like, I just think that there's a level of not wanting to ever have a conversation with anyone from the other side.
Like when Taylor Lorenz doxed libs of TikTok, it was unquestionable doxing. Literally posting an address and then claiming, but that's not her current real address. And it's just like an address she once used. So it's like, dude, no one is arguing the depth of doxing. No one is arguing it's 3rd degree doxing versus 7th degree doxing. We're saying you posted an address, which very well could have been hers at the time. And in fact was hers. And she had fled from it. So it's like, but I didn't dox her because she wasn't there. Oh, shut up. That's so stupid. And then she got mad. Apparently, after we put up that billboard, I teamed up with the Daily Wire guys to put a billboard in Times Square that said Taylor Lorenz doxed libs of TikTok. Hilarious. Apparently, I hear behind the scenes, she was like fuming and demanding like legal action. And they told her they couldn't do anything. It's a protected opinion. Like define doxing. Mm-hmm. And here's the funny thing. If I was wrong about that as a statement of fact, yeah, she could have sued. But the reality is they probably told her, look, if you sue him, he's going to show the news article saying you did this. And then a judge will bang the gavel saying you did this. And then how are you going to deny it? She can deny it right now until a court says so. All right. Saddle effing Tramp says Tucker interviewing Putin is the inverse of Jane Fonda in Vietnam. This is the highest treason to the establishment searching for truth. For the truth. Crazy days. Garrett Russell says, am I watching Days of My Life or CNN? In reference to the Zelensky interview. That's what I was saying. We needed like a long lost twin brother to appear and be like, you've stolen the presidency from me, brother. What? I thought I trapped you in the ice caves in Antarctica. You know what I mean? And like,
that'd be so great.
We never found out what his favorite band was. That's what I was waiting for.
Oh, I still want to know.
I'm going to watch the video after this. I need to know.
It's going to be like, what's a
Bad Company.
No, it's got to be like a band that is famous, but kind of like, you know,
like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No, they're great. How dare you? How dare you?
You don't think since he would just pick like the Beatles to seem relatable to everyone, you think he'd go a little bit lower on the list?
It's got to be a classic rock band that's
like
famous.
The Yardbirds.
But like when you say it, you go, oh, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, oh. Like you can't name Earth, Wind, and Fire. That is
they're a little bit more famous.
That's a cardinal sin.
All right, I'm gonna go with the Yardbirds.
No. Earth, Wind, and Fire. They're great. When you say Earth, Wind, and Fire, people are like, "Wow, they're fantastic."
it's a good band.
Zelensky's got to name a band where you go, "Really?" You know what I mean? Like, I guess.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Like, they have a good
I
song.
guess they have a good song, but like, does anybody really care?
Yeah.
And he's like just naming albums. Like, really? That could be it. Yeah, the Turtles. Like they had one big song and they had a couple little ones. Can you name any songs by the Turtles besides Happy Together?
No, not off the top of my head.
No, anybody? Chat?
I don't even know who the Turtles are, to be
Happy
honest.
Together.
I don't know what you guys are talking.
For all my love.
Yeah, I know that one.
Right. You didn't even know the band. See, that's a good point. He'd say the Turtles would go, who?
He's gonna say something that's really hits home with a lot of people. So famous band, really well loved. Zeppelin.
What if he said
some?
What if he said Taylor Swift?
That'd be hot.
But he is saying it is being quoted as band everywhere, so that makes me think that it is in fact a band.
Did it
is he going
say-
to say U2? Is U2 a band or just a person?
Did
Yeah,
it
but
say?
they're
Can you
not
find
classic
it?
rock.
I can only find the video. I can't.
U2
find
isn't classic rock.
What if he was like
No,
Ace
not
of
really.
Base?
I was
That'd
just
be
listening
really
to them.
Yeah.
I was
Remember Ace
listening
of Base?
live. I watched
Yeah,
them
they're so cool.
today. I was watching Ace of Base and singing it in the house. That's wild. Yeah. All that she wants is another baby. She's gone tomorrow, boy. All that she wants is another
Ace of
baby.
Base is great.
Hey.
If he said that, I'd be like, oh, it's kind of obscure. The Cardigans.
That's a good band.
Yeah, they're good.
They,
I like the Cardigans. My
Did
favorite
you say
game.
classic rock? That's all he said.
I guess.
Well, I think of the 70s when I think classic rock. Anything in the 80s is more modern rock.
Hence,
If he
U2
said
not
Tears
the
for
classic
Fears, I
rock.
would get angry and tell him, you stop listening to my music.
That'd be cool.
You don't listen to my music. All right. Federale Actual says, between Timcast and Lucecast, my airwaves are filled with truth and liberty. If only Rumble wasn't so buggy. Stop being buggy, Rumble. Also, zipper tits is my new favorite word. That's from something, isn't it? So here's a funny story. We were at
you know that. Yeah.
well, we were at Hard Rock Seminole in Miami, and Jerry Seinfeld was performing, I guess. So it was nuts how crowded it was. Sold out shows, I guess. And Alex Stein was there. So we're all hanging out, and Alex Stein is a crazy person. So I like playing $5 games. That means like you bet $5 and then you get cards and, you know, like minimal risk. It's for fun. We hang out, we sit down, we go, ooh, look at me, I got Ace King. Alex is like, come on, man, we got to play $100 blackjack. Let's go $100 per pull slot machines. You film these videos, they go viral. I'm like, Alex, I'm not putting $100 in a slot machine for one slot pull. You're giving your money away. He's like, let's play blackjack $100. Like, no, I don't want to play this game. It's too much money. And so he convinces us, because, you know, we're weak-willed people, I guess. But I thought it'd be funny to like, okay, I'll take like $200. We'll play $50 blackjack. And we got destroyed by the dealer was hitting 21 like crazy. And so I was like, okay, well, like I lost like $300. I don't want to play big hands like that. Normally it's like you can play the lowest possible number and you can play for a long time. Play craps, $15. You'll play for an hour off $30. And then we walk over to one table and it was like, it's a $50 minimum game. And I forgot what game we were playing. I think it might have been, man, what was it? I can't remember. All I know, it came out to like 200. No, it was five. Oh, it was Crisscross. Crisscross poker. And it was $500 a hand because the minimum was, it was a $500 max, I think. Or I'm getting it wrong. Basically, if you bet $50, you have to bet it on two different sides because it's Crisscross. There's two hands that per game. Confusing, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll play like one hand maybe because Alex wants to go crazy. Anyway, that's not the story. The story is I hear some guy behind me go, whoa. And I look back and he's looking at like the stacks of green chips. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's like 500 a hand. And he goes, yeah. And then Luke is sitting there and then he just looks at his friend and goes, he goes on his show all the time, but he never goes on his show. And then we all started busting out laughing. The dude,
Who's he pointing at?
he was pointing at Luke saying he goes on his show
that's so
to
funny.
me, but he never goes on his show. And then all of us at the table and everyone around started busting out laughing, like the people who knew who we were. And it was funny because like Luke goes on IRL all the time, but I never go on Luke's
You got to
show.
go on the best political show. We wanted to get you on.
Yeah, okay,
over
but
the
to be
weekend.
fair, like his show is new.
Yeah,
You know
it
what
is.
I mean? Like,
They're doing good. They're doing real good.
it was funny
Clint
that he
Russell.
said it because like Luke does come on all the time. But anyway, that was the story. But also it is a very, very funny story that Alex went crazy, had no idea what he was doing, how to hit, but he was like, come on, man, I'm watching these videos on YouTube. These guys are getting like 100,000 hits because they're gambling all this money. He's like, Tim, when he puts the $100 in and hits the button and it comes up jackpot, I feel like I got a jackpot. And I was like, okay, dude, I don't want to spend money like that. But it was funny. Like Alex was betting crazy amounts of money.
Did he win?
So he was doing really well at first. And he was up like a lot of money, and then he lost it all.
Yep, restraint. That's a big part of victory.
Well, he was playing $100 hands, and he was doing like 3 blackjack hands, and he was hitting it. And I'm like,
he was
okay.
on one that night.
Like for the first 10 minutes, we were all up like $500, and then the dealer couldn't lose. After that, he just started hitting everything, just nonstop. And then Alex was like, I've lost too much money. I think he won it back though.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he did. He was like, I want to go to the high limit room. And I was like, oh, jeez. And then he went and he bet like a bunch of money on Baccarat and hit and made a bunch of money. Like, I don't know. Dude, it was wild.
He wasn't there for a
Sounds like
long
it,
time.
dude.
He was there for a good time, you know?
I could see
Yeah.
him. He'd be like, "What's it, Tim? We're in Miami. Let's just play. Let's just win all this money. We're here. Let's go."
Can you Venmo me? Can you Venmo me? I'll give you. Give me the cash and I'll Venmo you. And I'm like, dude. If you ever want to go to a casino, you need to go with Alex. Actually, I just tell you this: hang out with Alex Stein. Like,
He is.
that's what,
so fun, yeah.
all I gotta say.
Up or down, it's the best.
Just hang out.
He's so great.
If you're trying to laugh and get in trouble,
Or learn and have a deep
He's
conversation. He's all that.
yeah, he's a funny guy. Like when the first time he came here, he ate the one chip challenge and got really
He ate
sick.
two
He ate
one-chip challenges.
All right. Julia Griffin says, did you read Ragnarosis 1 by Eric Jens? Definitely the most relevant new Civil War book right now. The ending gave me chills. I've not even heard of it. So here's one from the Sigbee. Says there's chatter of Tucker facing travel ban sanctions for interviewing Putin. If that's true, he could just walk through the southern border with fingers held high. George Alexopoulos drew that up already, and it's Dan Crenshaw and I think Lindsey Graham being like, he got the interview, we have to stop him. And then the next panel is like Biden being told Tucker already managed to get back into the country. Then the next panel is like the border. And then it shows Tucker smiling and he's running through with a bunch of illegal immigrants. It was very good. G Prime, was it G Prime 85?
85.
Yeah,
Yeah.
G Prime 85 on Instagram. Very, very good. Very funny. Very funny. Let's go. Ezekiel says, what do you think about the story Crowder released about the possible school shooting in Wisconsin that was covered up? Well, interesting. We need to go. We'll go through it. We'll talk about it on the members only show because there were documents released and it's pretty big. It was like, what was it like? It was like a leftist, I guess, like woke ideologies. And we will talk about that in the members only show in a couple minutes. So head over to timcast.com, click join us. This one is dark stuff, not for the kids. Okay, we're probably going to swear a lot. We're going to say naughty words. Okay, if you want to hear Ian say naughty words, you become a member at timcast.com. All right, where are we at? Beep Beep says, curious what your thoughts are on the Channel 5 dude being arrested for crossing the border.
Oh, is that what actually happened?
What was that?
I was watching this today. I forget his actual name, but he had a lot of controversy earlier this year about his personal character traits. But yeah, he went across the border, literally with like some coyotes, and just
arrested
videotaped
him.
the whole thing. Yeah, and they arrested him. I didn't know that part. I only watched like till like the first
I didn't know that.
first 10 minutes. But yeah, I guess he got arrested. That's crazy.
Wow.
Man.
Mike Gibson says, Rush Limbaugh used to say that you can always tell what the left is planning based on the accusations they make of their opposition. I mean, he was not wrong.
Yeah, true.
Was not wrong on that one.
No.
Lurch says Trump supporters take him seriously, but not literally. Haters take him literally, but not seriously. That's what happened in 2016. The Trump supporters were like, Trump is going to do these things. He's a goofball, though. He says funny things. He does stand up, basically. And the left were like, he literally wants to throw, people and flip them over and body slam them and things like that. And it's like, oh, calm down. Calm down. Let's grab some more super chats. Jake Beardsley says, my son's kindergarten class is teaching about segregation, and his best friend in school got very upset because he thought he couldn't be friends with my son because he's white. It's too young for this stuff. The school is Wellington Elementary in Florida. Well, what's going on in Florida? Someone's got to tell old Ron DeSantis and have him get the job done. What's Ron going to do? He's out. He's not going to be governor again. He's term limited.
Maybe he's just going to retire, go into acting, sort of reverse Zelensky his life. I mean, who's to say?
Thomas Sidebottom says, Pirates of the Caribbean. Wow, you made a good movie. Pirates of the Caribbean 2. Wait, you don't know what made it good, do you? Pirates of the Caribbean 3. Yeah, you had no idea. I think if Pirates of the Caribbean was made in the 70s, it would be a legendary classic with no sequels. And they'd be like, man, what a great movie. But it was made in a time when they were like, more money. And what I loved about it, when the commercials came out for Dead Man's Chest, it was like the #1 movie in the country. And I was like, no. Pirates of the Caribbean 1 is the #1 movie in the country. And people are going to see your garbage movie because of how much they liked the first one. Mm-hmm. And when I went and saw the second one, I was like, this is garbage. This sucks.
I haven't seen any of them. And it's because there was a lot of pop trash getting created at that time. And it just looked like another pop trash where everyone's like, I love it. It's so great. Like Harry Potter, the movie. Fine, whatever. It wasn't horrible, but I read the book. It was okay. I saw the movie. It was decent.
The first Pirates is utterly fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like Jack Sparrow wasn't supposed to be like that. He was supposed to be like a normal pirate. And then Johnny Depp was like, let's make him a bit eccentric and kind of drunk all the time. And
they gave him an original character to work with, and he made it better.
Right. The storyline is fantastic. They looted the treasure, they found the gold, but it was cursed, and now they're all walking dead, and they're trying to return the gold. Brilliant story. Oh, and then cool. The next movie was like, there's no ending. It's like, there's a chest with a heart in it, and then the movie ends, and nothing happens. And then the third movie is like, oh, we resurrected the guy who died in the first one, so that story made no sense. Yeah. And it's just, I think Dead Men Tell No Tales was decent. Nowhere near as good as the first one, but better than the rest.
Was that the fourth one?
I don't know. Maybe that was the fifth one.
See, I only remember the first maybe two, but I also remember them vividly because I saw them in theater. And I think now this we're going to release a bunch of stuff in the Netflix era is very different. Like the experience of watching, seeing... if you haven't seen Pirates of the Caribbean, I don't know what to tell you, but the scene when they're on the deck and the moonlight comes through and the pirate crew is skeletons, I remember that so vividly in that experience in surround sound. I really think moving to streaming is one of the things that's changing the way we make movies today.
Yeah, and it's killing the movie star. Mm-hmm. I'm on Netflix or Amazon and there's a movie and it's like they make fun of Gina Carano because they said the movie she's starting with Daily Wire domestic gross is in the tens of thousands, and it's like, right, it wasn't a movie in theaters. It's a streaming platform film. Nobody talks about Netflix put out a new movie. How much did it make? We don't know.
Netflix puts out 50 movies every month. It feels.
I know, they literally do.
All right, last super chat here. Ash says your next big song release needs to star Ian and be all about graphene. Well, the next release is coming out in a couple weeks, and it does star Ian. It's called Eyes of Advice. And we did a little 30-second preview on the Timcast members only, which we're going to now. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, head over to timcast.com, click join us, because we're going to talk about some dark stuff here, and it's probably better that it's on the uncensored show so we can say some naughty words. Head over to timcast.com if you want to watch it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Natalie, do you want to shout anything out?
I'm scared for the show now. You can follow me at Natalie G. Winters. And if you want to look at the entirely USA made clothing brand for men and women, you can go to she'ssoright.co and check it out. It's been a blast designing it. And a lot of the stuff is sold out, but the pre-orders are coming back in stock in the next few days.
That's awesome. It's been fun having you here.
Thank you.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. You can follow all of our work at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at HCBrimlo. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you guys do.
Yes.
Good to see you.
It was quite a pleasure. Always great. Good to see you guys on TV, here at home. Have a great night. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Call your mom. It was my mom's birthday today. I owe her a phone call.
No makeup.
Happy birthday, Becky. Yeah, and wipe off that makeup. You're beautiful as you are.
Nice. I like that. Really wholesome. Shout out to Ian's mom, too. Happy birthday as well. I am Serge.com. I'm excited for this after show. It'll be fun. Thank you for coming, Natalie, as always. Let's get to it.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.